So, hey guys, welcome to Cosplay Talks and All Things Nerdy. I'm iPhoto UK, and I'm joined by my podcast partner in crime, Switch GN. We're also joined by some really great guests this month. So, before we introduce the guests, talk a little bit about this month's topic, which is one we've been talking about doing for a little while. It's taken us a little bit of time to pull together because we wanted to do it justice, and that is Comic-Con safety and etiquette, and also general photo shoot safety and etiquette as well. So it's something that's quite dear to our hearts, my heart, also as an event organizer as well as a photographer. And it's something that is talked about more and more, but I feel is not talked about enough. So without further ado, we will start by introducing the guests, and we will come to Declan first.
Oh, yay, me. Howdy, people. My name is Declan Scammell. I am a professional photographer. That still feels really weird to say. With
you are.
over a decade of experience. You'll know me from a lot of my safer work, like cosplay work, but I also work professionally in the spice world. So I have a few insights into different things.
Spice World is such a good name for it.
I know, I love it.
that.
It also makes me think of my favourite movie. I love Spice World.
Yeah.
Spice up your lives. I'm so gay.
And he's singing and dancing again, so that's another reel.
Wonderful.
Oh God, no. Last time when we did this, they all went off on a break and I was just sitting there having a drink and I started like dancing about and I was like, if this gets like put into if they like clip this, I'll go kill them. And then Switch was like, oh, go through the editing and I found this and I made a reel and he sent it to me. I was like, I hate you so much.
I love that. You should make a little montage, build them up over time, and then just make a montage at the end of the year.
Oh yeah, definitely. If he
But
carries
don't
on
you
coming
like
on
this?
and doing dances, that's right.
But
Oh, I
how
had it
fun-
already.
Also,
So
Switch
next we
is
have
frozen on my
Tess.
screen if that's important.
Not really.
He's
Okay.
moving on
no.
mine.
Oh, that's fine. As long as it's not just
Yeah.
frozen for others.
Tess,
Me?
introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Tess. I'm a UK cosplayer. I'm from London, and my handle is Ready Cosplayer One. Been cosplaying since 2018. Yeah, huge nerd. Basically, just cosplay anything that I feel attached to in some way, which can be a bit of an issue sometimes. But here we are.
Fair enough. And finally, for the guests, it's Chloe.
Hello. All right. I'm Chloe Hill. It's Chloe Hill. I'm a content creator, cosplayer from Hull in the UK. I want to say I've been cosplaying all my life, but
Same.
properly been cosplaying for like the past few years, like the past 5 years. I just grew up really delusional, and this just helps with the delusion. It's like there's a whole load of other delusional people out there.
I love that for us.
Certainly is.
So
We're all
I want to
delulu in
pretend I'm
some way,
Buffy the
shape, or
Vampire
form.
Slayer. I'm doing it.
This whole
But
community
we
is
always
based
support
on
each other in
delusion,
it,
so
so I
don't
love
worry.
that.
So,
Well, I used to get bullied so much. So people don't bully me now. Because everyone else is just like
Yeah, because being
people that I
nerd,
speak
being
to.
nerd, right?
I was
Yeah,
saying this to
like
someone the
being
other
the-
day, like,
Should I hear
Lost it?
anything?
you there?
yeah, but Chloe was
I thought there
speaking,
was
so I
more-
stopped.
Oh,
Oh, no, everyone just thought, was like, is he going to carry on?
we didn't know if
No, I didn't want to interrupt Chloe.
Oh.
You were saying, Deck?
Well, so I was saying this to someone the other day, it was like the whole Wicked thing. Like, I remember being like bullied for like liking nerdy shit, liking musicals, liking all this stuff. And we're now in a phase where like Wicked came out and it made its its production budget on opening night. like, I think budget was 150 million, and then it did it was 150 million budget, and it did 164 in opening night. And I was just like, all the years I've bullied for liking this shit, but actually now it's the cool stuff. I'm part of the cool gang.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's fair. So I don't think we need to introduce either myself or Switch in any great detail, but if you are a first-time listener, I'm Darren, iPhoto UK, semi-professional, I would say, photographer. Yeah, I've been doing it for a number of years, as most of you guys know. Then fell down the cosplay rabbit hole properly in about 2017, and it all went wrong from there. So Switch, give us a quick introduction for any newbies listening.
Yeah, so if there's any newbies out there, Switch_GN on Instagram. I do have another Instagram, but you find me on there anyway. Don't know. Do I class myself as the semi-professional photographer these days? I don't know.
Well, I mean, if you go by the actual definition for a professional photographer, it's someone that earns 50% or more of their yearly income from photography. And since you don't have a full-time job, I guess you're a professional now.
I guess so.
I was going to go there, but I wasn't going to be that mean.
I love that.
Couldn't help myself. Sorry.
So I'm unemployed. So let's go with I'm a professional photographer.
You're a professional
doesn't
photographer.
get many bookings.
Like that.
Anyhow,
You're a professional
I'm a
photographer or
cosplay
starving artist.
We'll go starving
So you're a
artist.
full-time photographer.
Fine,
So
there
I'm
we
a
go. That sounds
full-time
better.
photographer.
So now we've
Freelance.
established that apparently I'm a freelance full-time photographer.
Very nice.
Was it
Someone
cosplay
pay
scene?
him,
Probably
please.
been in it. How long have I been in it? About probably cosplay photography about 2-3 years, and then before that I cosplayed for a couple of years before jumping into the photography element. And then obviously this podcast with Darren.
Yeah. So,
Ironically, this takes up a lot of my time as well.
yeah, it does. Yeah. So we just want, as I said, we want to chat generally about sort of con safety and etiquette, cosplay photography safety and etiquette. There's a lot of elements to that. And I think it's safe to say that our guests offer a very broad range of knowledge on the subject from different angles. So yeah, I think we wanted to talk about sort of understanding the Comic-Con culture, because we have a range of events out there, and some of them allow cosplayers, photographers, videographers, general muggles, general public off the street to go and meet and greet guests and things like that. And so you can often find yourself mixing with anyone and anyone. The general mainstream events don't have any form of application process. Anyone can go online and buy a ticket. And so I think, there is a big element there where people need to be aware that they're not just mixing with their friends, and they're not just mixing with other cosplayers and photographers, and that none of these people are vetted. And so you do have to be careful and keep yourself safe. There's also the other type of event, which is the photo cons, if you like, the likes of Secret Con, and Cosplay, events like that where you have to sort of formally apply. And I know this is a big thing over in Europe, where there's a lot of photo cons where you have to apply and be approved, and people are vetted a lot more closely. So at least there you can go with an element of safety. But I think, majority of the mainstream cons, you don't get that. So, for me, that's one thing I went to my first mainstream con in 2017. And that's, one of the things that hit me when I first went, is that there's a lot of people, thousands of people, and there's a lot of security and sometimes police presence, but they can't be everywhere all at once. And I do sometimes wonder how these events manage to keep people safe. And then you hear stories from issues that people have had and things like that. And, you know, I don't know, what are your thoughts, guys, on, you know, do you think people by and large consider that aspect when they go to a con, or do you think there's a lot of naivety from people that sort of go headfirst into cons and don't really consider the safety aspect?
I think the latter. I think a lot of people go to Comic-Con for the first time at least, just to see what it's about, rather than going with a purpose. And the way I always tend to explain it to people when they ask me about Comic-Con and what it's like is it's like a festival. So you can get absolutely anybody there, but we're all just in cosplay. So it's a little bit more chaotic than a festival.
Yeah, that's a really good way of describing it, actually. I think that's probably the best way.
Similar security processes, but you still get the odd groups of people that aren't there for the right reason.
I mean, exactly. You know, we still hear now about, you know, dodgy people doing upskirting and people, you know, touching without consent and grabbing bits of people that they shouldn't. And, you know, it's
that happens everywhere though.
Does it does. Precisely. And I think
I was at a concert at the weekend and a guy was like, he just grabbed my bum. Like, out of nowhere. Like,
yeah. I think that's kind of where I'm going with it, is that, you know, being at a Comic-Con is just like being at a festival or at a gig, or out and about at a market, or, you know, generally in town. There is no vetting process. And, you know, I'm not saying there should be, because it would be notoriously difficult to do.
Yeah.
But I just think people need to be more aware of their own safety and other people around them.
It's more of a risk with Comic-Con because there are children there.
Yes.
Like, it's not adults at a festival. Everyone's over a certain age. Anyone could be, their babies are there.
Exactly.
So
I used to be so naive because I'd go and I'd be like, I just think everyone had the same mindset as me. Until you find out people don't have the same mindset. Everyone's going for different reasons. And I do think some people do go to Comic-Cons just to look at young girls dressed 100% up and stuff. Yeah.
This is it. And this kind of brings me on to a next point, you know, why safety and etiquette is important at cons. And it is that reason, because there are children around, there are naive people around who are not used to being around so many people, but also you've got the way in which people are dressed sometimes. Some of the characters from the games or the TV shows or the movies that people might be portraying, they might be wearing, you know, a lot less or something, not of a sexual nature, but of a you know, a little bit more skimpy, showing a bit more flesh, and that can be, you know,
sexualized very easily.
So I have a story for this one.
Yeah, go for it.
So this was at MCM, and it was 2 years ago. And I just finished shooting with a couple of friends. We grabbed a seat in the Costa, and I went up to queue because there was no point in us losing the seat. Drop my bags off, go up and queue. There was a person with her partner who wasn't in cosplay. She was dressed up as the mum from My Spy Family. I want to say Anna, but I can't remember the name. And I don't know if people know the character, but her spy outfit is very revealing.
She's on everybody's Hear Me Out cakes.
Oh yeah,
so she was in that outfit, so like quite revealing and stuff. So this guy with a camera asked them if he could take a picture, which was really good. Like, up to this point, I was corner of the eye, overhearing it, but really impressed. When they walked off, he says to his mate, no clue who that character is, but that's one for the weight mate. Oh, and it was that point of, I was looking at him, I was looking at his gear, and it was a Canon camera, but it was that point of, it's either a low-end professional camera or it's a high-end amateur. Because every brand sort of has that point where it's like entry-level pro or higher consumer.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know right now if you're a professional photographer or if you're just Joe Blogs with a nice camera. And it was just like,
I would say mostly
sort of
Joe
went off
Blogs
to-
are based off that.
I'm hoping Joe Blog based off that. I didn't see them again after that point.
Yeah, I mean,
but oh my
this is it. This is it. Because obviously, you know, the age of digital photography and technology, photography has become so much more accessible for everybody. And, you know, there are two types of people with cameras at events, in my opinion, and that is photographers / videographers, and then guys with cameras. The guys with cameras are usually the people that, like that guy, they're just there to get some pictures for their own personal gratification, or they'll stand from the sidelines with a massive 300mm lens, sniping everyone and anyone who, you know, walks around in a short dress or a skimpy outfit. And, you know, I know some events out there, I think MegaCon at the moment are working on ideas for a photographer pass, you know, like the creator passes and things like that. And I know the guys are working quite hard on that at the minute. They're not rushing it. They want to get it right. They want to have a process where they can maybe have a photographer pass that photographers can apply for. And you will be, I think their plan is to sort of people within reason. So that, you know, people will have this sort of lanyard with this pass and people will know instantly that there's some element of safety there to shoot with that person. That person is known on the con scene as being a photographer, not a guy with a camera. And you know what? That's something I really welcome. I don't care about going to events and getting a free pass. It's not about that for me. If I can have a pass, I don't care if I have to pay full price for it. I'll quite happily still apply for that pass because it will give people the confidence. Because I would hate the idea. I think it'd be great. I would hate the idea of someone that's new in the cosplay community go to an event and approach someone they think is a photographer, shooting with someone for the first time. They've never had the photograph taken at a con before and have a bad experience with a guy with a camera rather than an actual photographer.
It also gives a bit of peace of mind as well, a little bit.
Journey. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's for me, that's kind of where, you know, and the other thing as well is there are a lot of people in the cosplay community that also work in the adult industry sector. OnlyFans pages, working generally in the adult industry, who are also like massive nerds and love cosplay. And so you've got them walking around events in their cosplays, and then you might get these general unscrupulous people that might recognize them and then start following them around and taking dodgy photos. You know, there's all elements of issues from the safety aspect from my perspective. I think by and large, I think I probably hear less. I don't recall hearing anything from MCM EGX London. I don't know about you, Dec, whether you heard anything from the event. I don't think I heard anything massively.
I only heard one
thing. The piece. Really?
I heard
you heard or you something?
A couple of the younger female cosplayers that I'm friends with were all talking about the same person and basically their behaviour, and it was to do with taking pictures together but not asking consent before doing specific poses. And it was I think it's pretty well known in the.
Was that the strangling person? Yeah. So I heard about that one, and then the other one I heard about was someone similar vein was getting people to pose with them treading on people. So like putting their foot on neck or foot on chest and stuff, like a victory power pose thing. They were the two that I heard about. Just like to plug MCM right now. MegaCon might do this, but I haven't checked the MegaCon app lately. But all of the MCM apps have a security feature on them. so you can report
Yes.
any instances.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And
Interesting.
Lots of
Yeah.
people don't. So, and you
Yeah.
don't even need to. You can log in to unlock more features. Cool, I haven't deleted the app yet. Will it let me do
Yeah,
it?
you don't have to log
Okay,
in
I
to
didn't know that.
utilize that feature, do you? But it's not something I
No.
see them actively push too much. I wish they would.
Yeah.
They don't, which is
But where's
really
that
annoying. So they have a security team on site.
Okay.
So you can go on there. No, it's not going to work. The event's over. But both of the apps, so the London and the Birmingham apps, have it. And
Yeah.
it's basically normally
Yeah,
down
it's
the
really good.
bottom, and there's like a security report feature, and that's being monitored. I've asked them this before, like in messages, and they say it's being monitored the whole day. And what I've gone through step by step to show someone before, and it'll ask things like, has an incident happened, or have you just been made to feel uncomfortable? What was the person wearing? Can you describe them? Where did it happen? So they can try and collate like as many reports as possible. If someone's being particularly creepy in Spider-Man costume, sorry, Chloe, you've got a Spider-Man costume on. It's the first thing that came to my head.
I've been one of 800 at a con, so how would they find out which Spider-Man it was?
What about
No,
Pizza Planet
exactly.
one day?
Oh, that's
Yeah,
so
Pizza
cool.
Planet, there we go. But yeah, so
Very
they do have
specific.
this feature, but people don't, it's not pushed on their socials. I really think it should be. But I
No,
don't think they want to
no.
talk
Yeah, it
about
should be.
safety.
Enough people know about it.
That's
But I do think that's one of the
questionable,
things
but
they do really well.
Yeah, I think
that's impressive. I didn't know that existed.
we could say that
It
it's one of the
exists,
things they do well and one of the things they don't do well because it exists, but not many people know about it.
No,
Yeah.
not enough people know about it. And you can also, there's a medical help thing on there. As well as
Yes.
the safety, there's another tab, I'm sure, for medical, like if you're feeling unwell and stuff, and it'll tell you where all the first aid
Yeah.
points are at the location.
Oh,
Again, I'm
Yeah,
sure
that's
MegaCon has this on their app. I know MCM does.
I didn't even know on had an app actually, so that's quite interesting. I need to.
Yeah,
Darren really
MegaCon
quiet
has
for
that.
everybody else.
Yeah, I just thought he was whispering.
No, my mic's still registering okay for some reason. So
You've been silenced.
He's just been screaming at us up
What
until
did
this
you
point.
do to him?
Nothing.
Oh,
Asking
is it
too many
still
questions.
quiet? So
Just explain us.
So yeah, I also wanted to mention, like, in this whole sort of safety and etiquette and how it affects you, it's not always just the physical stuff either. Like, I've heard people suffering like mental and verbal abuse at cons. It's not just like touching and things like that. I've heard some like dodgy stories in the past about people receiving like verbal sexual comments and on social media as well. Just like, you know, you'll meet someone at a con, you'll have a chat, and you'll think everything was fine and they were just a normal nice person, and then like you'll get back to your hotel in the evening, and then all of a sudden like the person will start sending you dodgy messages or sending dick pics or whatever, just like really overstepping boundaries.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just, I think it's important really for people to understand, maybe to look out for red flags. I'm not saying to people that every time you meet someone new to automatically start suspecting that they might be dodgy, but just always have it in your mind if you're interacting with someone new that you don't know.
Yeah, treat them
Just
like a stranger.
kinda be aware. Yeah, exactly.
the thing is, like, a lot of these people, they kind of mistake you being kind for something more. Like, 'cause I'm always real
Yeah.
nice and like friendly, and I think sometimes they'll go back and be like, "Oh,
Like she likes
she
me.
likes me," and it's really hard sometimes to like.
It gets tricky
I
because
don't
you don't
know.
want to. You don't want to be mean.
I don't
there's
want to be that person where they're like, "Oh, she
Rude, yeah.
was
but-
horrible," and
yeah, it's a tricky one.
suppose it's the best thing you could do is just be yourself, and it's just being kind of keeping in the forefront of your brain that you don't know the person. So obviously, we're all brought up in a way that's like, be polite, treat people how you want to be treated. So as long as you're treating some people nicely, I think at some point you're gonna get that weirdo. I think especially like a mainstream cons or just a general con, you're always gonna get that. But I think it's just keeping in your mind that not everyone is going to be the same way that you will be, and
I think you also need to consider as well. At cons, especially if you've had your social media account for a while, there will be people that follow you that feel like they know you. They'll feel like they're your friends because they interact with your stories and the whole parasocial relationship side of things. So when you see them at cons, sometimes they expect more familiarity with you than you have with them, and then that's a bit awkward. But I think, I don't know,
totally. I think social boundaries I think are a problem for some people. Like if you've got thousands of followers, you can't possibly know every single one of them people and know their intentions. I just hear so many horror stories from people. People that mainly sort of from meetings or people they've met at like mainstream events, that are their fans, if you like, that just overstep those boundaries. So moving on from that then, just want to talk about some safety tips and get some suggestions from you guys, things that you do to keep yourself safe. So what tips could you give people for their own sort of personal safety? We'll stick to the Comic-Con aspect at the moment, and sort of the how to keep themselves safe going around the con and attending the con, but also how to keep themselves safe when arranging shoots and shooting with photographers. So, Tess, what would be your top tips for that?
My main one would be have like an assigned person, have like a person that you're with, that you're kind of buddied with for most of the time, if you can. So me and a close friend of mine stick together at cons, and we'll, for example, at MCM London by the trees where everyone gets their pictures taken. She always gets her pictures taken. I always get mine taken, but not always by the same photographers because we have different niches. So sometimes she'll go off for a shoot and she'll be like, I'm going to be here, and I'll be like in eye line of her unless she wants me with her, and then I'll stay with her. But for the most part, we can keep eyes on each other at all times. I think that's really important. Go on, sorry, I interrupted someone.
Yeah, that seems like a really good tip.
It's really worked out for us. And we also, as I mentioned earlier, the same friend and I, we have a code word for when someone's making us feel uncomfortable. So she'll come up and be like, oh, like, do you fancy getting some pancakes? And we're like, yeah, let's get some pancakes. And then we'll just kick and get out there. Generally, it's worked out pretty well for us.
Nice.
So far, I think that's my first one, I think.
Perfect.
I just want to point out that we can't make pancakes the big thing, because otherwise MCM will hear this and they'll be like, everyone wants pancakes, we need to get pancake vendors next year.
We could do coffee. Coffee works. But then the person might follow you
works.
for, I don't know. Yeah, coffee works.
I'm just making a joke. If everyone starts talking about pancakes, the MCM will be like, we need pancake vendors. Last year we heard loads of people talk about pancakes.
So mad.
What just think is like,
so yeah, what would
I actually could do with some pancakes.
Internet connection problems now, apparently.
I can always do pancakes.
I think a big one as well is to just like feel be aware of your surroundings, because I feel like we get quite comfortable at Comic-Cons. Like you just feel too comfortable sometimes, and you won't notice. You won't notice the weirdos sometimes, and it's just just be aware of your surroundings. And because I've not noticed before people taking photos of me, or do you know what I mean? Like
it's really
until
easy.
someone's been like, "Oh, that person's taking photos." Either.
I think it's very easy to sort of like walk around in your own little bubble. And sort of not necessarily notice some of the things that are going on behind you, because it is such at times an overwhelming experience at some of the mainstream events, especially like MCM London, where it's literally just a sea of people, and it's very easy to kind of like shut yourself off to some of that, and not notice, like you say, some of the things that are going on around you.
Sure.
Yeah, I think you should always have a plan in mind of what to do if you think someone is following you, and
Definitely.
you know.
Yeah. So Dec, from a photographer's perspective, then, what would be one of your top tips?
On awareness and spatial awareness and location awareness, be aware of everything. Like, tell people where you're going to go. Have someone with you. Like, inside, outside, wherever I'm shooting, I tell people to have a chaperone, and that's spice or not spice, because it makes them feel more comfortable. It means I've got someone to move light stands. Like, it makes everyone's life so much easier. So if you can have someone with you, do. If not, tell someone where you're going to be. Location sharing is amazing. So if you're iPhone users, you can all use Find My. You can just share your locations permanently for the day or for an hour. If you're Android users and iPhone users combined, or just Android users, weirdos, you could do Google Maps. And again, you could share your location. You just have to go into a group. And I always do that when I'm traveling.
You can do it through WhatsApp as well.
You can,
you can do it with WhatsApp as well.
Yeah, you can do,
I like to do it on Google Maps just because it seems to be pinpoint accurate, and WhatsApp always wants to have issues.
Yeah, Google Maps is very good.
Any form of doing some kind of location sharing can be really useful. I have often joked about putting air tags on my friends because there's a few of them that have this habit of just getting lost. But if nothing else,
I'm that friend.
Location. If nothing else, it's not lost. It's not been found yet.
Yeah.
I'd definitely
I'm
second
lost, but I don't want to be found.
I'd definitely second the chaperone thing. Like, I get a lot of people messaging me on the run up to cons who maybe I haven't shot with before, and I'm arranging shoots, and one of the things I'll often get asked is, is it okay if I bring my friend with me? Or there was one recently where I shot with for the first time at MCM Comic-Con London, and she was a young 16-year-old cosplayer, fairly new to the community. Don't normally shoot with people under the age of 18, but she messaged me specifically, and she was, for someone of her age, she's really, really savvy and presents herself really well. She asked all the right questions. She said straight up, I understand if you don't want to shoot with me because of my age, but I do go to Comic-Cons with my dad. He also cosplays. He'll be with me. Really, really, really good. And, that's great. But I also get people sort of adult age who just don't seem to have a clue. They're like, would you be interested in doing a hotel shoot at my hotel after con? And I'm thinking, I've never met this person. I don't know who you are. They're there at the event on their own, and it just starts all the alarm bells ringing. And the thing I'll always say to people is, if you want to bring someone with you, please feel free. A, it helps them to feel safe. B, it is also another person to help keep me safe.
because it's all a risk to you.
This isn't just about cosplayers we're talking about here. I have heard of some really bad experiences that photographers have had, not necessarily being harassed, but things have been said about them at a later date that haven't happened, and had they have not had another person there, it could have ended very, very badly for that person. So and as Declan said, it's great to have someone to help hold lights, move things around. It's also someone else as another pair of eyes to bounce ideas off as well. So I'm really for. Yeah, exactly. I'm really for people bringing like chaperones, friends, whoever they want to bring to the shoot.
If a photographer ever says, no, you can't bring a friend, then that is a red flag.
Yeah, that's
Like,
a massive.
yeah,
then
run
don't
away,
shoot with them.
Run.
It does happen. Like,
It
there
does.
has been photographers before that say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think from my point of view, from a photographer point, it's like when someone has a chaperone or someone like a friend with them, sometimes I've got some of the better ideas out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The merrier.
Same.
Because you've got the cosplayer, the model who is in front, obviously they're modeling. And when you are sometimes when you're from a photographer point of view, we're like shooting all day. Like ideas and what have you not done today as this character? What can we do that's different so it's not going to be identical? Your brain just goes like
It does.
And from a cosplayer standpoint, having a friend there, especially for people who aren't too comfortable in front of the camera naturally, having a friend there kind of relaxes your demeanor. It kind of makes you a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah,
really does.
Free.
But also
sometimes
from
if you laugh with you, it really helps.
exactly, and also from your perspective again, Tom. Like as a photographer, your ideas will sometimes just go, but also you've got a million and one other things. Like, is my bag okay with the rest of my gear in? There's tons of people around. Are the lights in the right place? You know, I need to move that light. You can worry less about that kind of thing. But also the person that you're shooting with, they might be a bit more inexperienced, like you said, Tess, and they'll all of a sudden they'll freeze. But then their friend will say, "Oh, remember we talked about this idea that you wanted to do, or this pose," or they can have the Pinterest board up on their friend's phone that can relay between the cosplayer and the photographer. The person that's with them can say if there's something that's out of place. They might be a little bit more honest than the photographer if they're looking a bit off in the pose. Because as a photographer, you want the shot to look the best. Yeah.
Something that I find really useful with that is the friend that I usually pair up with. She'll come and literally, like mid-shoot, like just hike up my bra or something that a photographer would never do. Something something that a photographer would never do for anyone else to do.
I really hope they wouldn't.
Yeah, you'd hope not, wouldn't you?
Who would hope?
Depending on I guess it depends if you're friends with the photographer or not. But yeah,
I was going to say, like,
supposed to be
there's a
different.
couple
Like,
of
if I did it as
friends that
Steph, it is different.
Yeah, like Lucy and Jordan, I would do that too, but that's because I've shot with them enough times that we're friends outside of con. Where it's like, could you just do it because it's easier for you to adjust it? But anyone else, it's like, check. Can I add something to this whole like hotel shoot thing? Alcohol and shoots do not mix. I have had too many people message me. Post alcohol. So I have been messaged. So this would be at MCM events, like London specifically, where we're partying in the Novotel, chilling, all is fine. Like, this guy sent me a message. I'd seen him doing shots, and he sent me a message asking to do a boudoir, like, adult-themed shoot. And I was like, no. I was like, you've been drinking. You don't know if I've been drinking, but I had been drinking because I was with friends. You're in no place to consent to any kind of shoot, let alone boudoir or OnlyFans or whatever you're wanting right now. It's like, if you want to do that, message me when sober and we'll arrange it another time. This is not the time to do it.
Yeah. I think it's tricky.
Professionalism.
Yeah.
I mean, there's different elements to that as well. Because someone could have a few drinks, go down that route, all of a sudden, they want to do this shoot. You put time and effort into doing the shoot, you're halfway through the editing, and all of a sudden they could have a massive hit of remorse going, oh, I was drunk, what was I thinking? And then message you going, I'm really sorry, but I don't want any of these shots to see the light of day. You've wasted hours and hours of your time.
Yeah.
You know,
it's why I don't do free boudoir work. Because
exactly.
People can change their mind about what they want to show. So, like, unless it's like drastically wrong and the images are bad and they don't then there's a difference, like different conversation.
Yeah, and you know what?
There's
absolutely nothing wrong with somebody changing their mind about a spicy sort of shoot. However, if I'm going to shoot with someone, I want to be 100% certain that they are in the best possible mindset to make the decision about that shoot in the first place. If after that at a later date they decide, I mean, I've done some shoots with people, and then months, sometimes years later, they've messaged me and said because of a job that they're doing, or they've changed what they do in life, or because of whatever reason, would I be able to remove the shots from this specific shoot? It's always 100% of the time, even if I paid the model for that shoot, it is always 100%, no problem at all. You know, people have got the right to ask for shots to be removed, or decide that they no longer want to go ahead with it. But I don't think people are going to be in the right headspace if they've had one too many shots at the Novotel, and then all of a sudden, like you say, decide that they want to do a boudoir or OnlyFans style shoot. And it's something that shouldn't be spur of the moment anyway. It should be planned in advance.
Yeah, I was going to say, you need to plan it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you should have a discussion what you want to do, where you want to shoot it, and again, not at that person's hotel and not at your own hotel. No. You know, I would always say to anyone, if you're going to do a hotel boudoir, or if you're going to do a boudoir shoot during a con weekend, don't use their hotel or your hotel, because one of you's staying there afterwards, and if something goes wrong, you've got nowhere to go. That person knows where you're staying. So either arrange a separate room to do it in, arrange a studio. You know, unless you know the person really, really well, you've shot with them a ton of times before, or you're really good friends, in which case, fine, I have no issues with it. But just arranging it with someone that you barely know in your own hotel room, for me, particularly if you're staying there on your own, it's just a risk too far. It kind of leads us on to the next section in this safety tip. Go on. Sorry, Tom.
I think also talking in regards to boudoir, and I think shouldn't do it like we've all said, shouldn't do it as a spare of the moment thing.
God, no.
I think you've got to plan it, you've got to prep for it, you've got to be in the right headspace for it. I think sometimes it's like you're better off having a plan. You know, what is it you want to do? What sort of vibes do you want? What do you want? If you're doing it as a spare of the moment, and you're just doing it because you're at that point in time, sorry, let's do it, you're not going to get the best quality out of it.
You're not.
That's what I
feel like you've really got to be thinking about it. I know when I do my boudoir shoots, I literally people book, and I won't shoot with them for about 3 to 6 months, half the time. But that's just down to scheduling or whatnot. But then it allows them to build a rapport with myself.
Yeah.
I can then work with them and go, hey, what is it you want? What sort of style? What is it you're looking for? Are you comfortable? You know, I want you to think about these bits and pieces and this and that, and get your mind sort of thinking about it. And if you know, at any point you've got any dramas, let's have a conversation about it. Yeah. If you don't feel like you want to do it, or you want to delay it, then we delay it. Yeah. I feel like there needs to be there's a little bit more in regards to that sort of thing, where you need a plan. You can't just go, oh, Dec, I'm staying at 202 in the hotel. Come on to my room later. Let's do a shoot.
Yeah. Exactly. I think for me, people sometimes do the spur of the moment con weekend boudoir shoot because they know the photographer's going to be there, and they do it because they know they won't have to pay, or it'll be cheaper. They think that if they arrange it for an out of con time, it's going to cost more money and blah, blah, blah. That's not always the case. I would much rather somebody be honest with me and say, I was thinking of doing it this weekend because of the cost, blah, blah, blah. In situations like that, if it's a shoot that I'll be interested in, I'll say, right, well, let's spend the time that we would have spent this weekend chatting in a public place, discussing the shoot, the ideas, what you want to do, and then let's reschedule for another time in a studio or wherever you want to do it. And sort of, like you say, Tom, build that bit of rapport. You know, it's just, sometimes some people take too many risks for the sake of saving cost, or because it's convenient. Or rushing it, exactly. So
me and Darren
it kind of brings us on to the next.
I've had a problem with photographers assuming that I want to do that sort of content because they know I've done that type of content.
Yeah.
So I'll be at like a cosplay shoot and they're like, oh, do you want to pull your skirt up a bit more? Or do you want to... Yeah. And I'm like,
that's a good
no,
point,
I'm at Comic-Con and I want to do a cosplay shoot. Like, it's all separate. You need a line and it's...
Yeah.
Like,
I think
I'm
this
like,
is it as
well,
well.
I know you do that stuff anyway. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not like I just
do
it all the time. Like, it's
a really good point. Obviously we spoke earlier about, a lot of people that work in maybe the adult industry sector are also like massive Comic-Con nerds and love the whole cosplay scene. But I think, again, some people forget and blur the boundaries between what is, to someone like yourself, work in the sort of spicy side of things that you shoot. That's essentially your job and your business. And then when you're at a Comic-Con and you just want to cosplay and have fun and create nice content, people often think that the lines are blurred and they'll just, like you say, assume. And I think that's something that you really don't hear talked about much. So that's actually a really good point. So how would you go about in a situation like that, and say someone isn't taking no for an answer, that you don't want to shoot that? Let's talk a little bit about emergency preparedness. So what have you ever been in a situation, Chloe, like that, where you've kind of had to have some sort of emergency plan, and what would be your suggestions for someone to safely get out of a situation that they're uncomfortable with?
Leave. You can just leave. Like,
exactly.
But like, what are they going to do? Well,
you're in a public
it depends
place,
where you are as well. I was going to say, if you're in a public place, a lot of the photographers that have been like that, they know that they're pushing.
Yeah.
So when you do say no, they'll just be like,
if you call them out, they're
sorry,
up with the tail between the legs.
Well, that's when they'll say, oh, well, I just know you do that type of content, so I don't think you'd mind. Like, that's always like the answer.
Yeah.
Then it'll be awkward for a couple of more poses, and then you just part ways and never hear from them again.
Which is probably for the best.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's normally the guys with the little
compact
digital cameras anyway.
Or shooting with a phone, or
take you a picture and then they pull out a phone and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You.
Yeah.
It took me going to a few cons to realise that there was a lot of people that knew me from that content also.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I think I am quite naive.
Yeah. What, you wouldn't assume that everyone...
No, you wouldn't. No.
I just, but I think a lot of people know that you do it. They might not have seen it, but they just know you do it, or they've heard you've done it. And like people just assume, she's got an OnlyFans, she's done a lot, this type of stuff, she's definitely just
I think people don't,
for that.
People don't appreciate that, and a lot of people don't accept that is a job to some people.
Yeah.
Like Declan, you know the amount of work that goes into it, the amount of rules, regulations.
Exactly.
There's a lot. There's a lot more than what people think.
There is.
And it's a job.
Insane.
It's not exciting. Like, my work isn't exciting. It sounds really stupid. But, my brain is thinking about so many other things than what I think I'm thinking about. Have I ever told you the story of the police coming and interrupting a shoot, Darren?
Yes. Yeah. You have.
Okay. So this is hilarious one that's very on point. So I had a model fly over who wanted to shoot with me. We booked a kink studio, but they've flown over from the US and a significant time difference. Basically, they'd done all the right things. They didn't have a chaperone, unfortunately, because couldn't afford to pay for two of them to come over. But they'd arranged telephone check-ins with family members and stuff. And basically, they'd missed the telephone check-ins because of the time differences and whatever. So I had the police turn up mid-shoot with them tied up And like we got them down safely, and all was fine, and they were really apologetic, and like it was all good in the end. But it was a little bit rocky at the start, having like these police officers turn up.
Good for them for being on
you
it,
cut out
though.
there, my lovely.
Oh, gone. Oh, you're back.
Oh,
You're
they're back.
Was that me? I said good for them for being on it, though. Like that.
Yeah.
No,
Support system, right?
That's
there.
what you
really
want.
on it. Yeah, because also given the model, like all the location details, like the times, everything, and all the contact info, so they then passed it on to a trusted friend. I think it was actually family, I can't remember. But like, so they knew all the details, so they're basically like, hey, like our friend has gone for this photo shoot, but they're not replying to their phone. We're worried, and police came, all was good. So yeah, it was.
I wonder how many of these people with their families about when they got home. I would love to see them hear that story.
I have had it at. I was at an event once, and someone basically passed out, so we had to call an ambulance, which happens. But one of the people in attending was like, "I work for this local ambulance service." They were like, as soon as the ambulance people are here, you need to like, I will help until that point. You need to tell me when they're at the door, and I'm going out the back entrance because I don't want them to know I'm here. And it was like, that's absolutely fine. There's no problem with that. Because that venue has an alarm on the door, so as soon as the front door is open, an alarm goes through like a continuous beep to tell you the door's open, and then you've got to get through another door, and then like a concave wall that goes round with like a load of kink gear on it that has to be moved out of the way. So you've got a couple of like entrance points, a couple of like security points. So we were like, that's not a problem. As soon as that alarm goes, we'll know they're here, and you run out back. So that was a funny one.
Fair enough. So,
yeah,
Tess, what would your emergency exit strategy be in a situation like that?
I have two different answers. So for myself, I'm 5'2", so I'm quite little, and I'm quite skilled at just being like, gotta go, and then just getting the hell out of there. But if it's for someone else, if someone's making a friend of mine uncomfortable, I go into like straight up like mama bear mode, and I will put myself in between them and be like, back the fuck up. Sorry if I'm not allowed to say.
No, go for it.
So it's two very different approaches. For myself, it's just get out and then take note of who that was and tell people about it. Yeah. If it's someone else, I'm making it uncomfortable for them if they're making it uncomfortable for my friend.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So, Declan, is a scenario, and then give people a tip on how they might get out of it. So, say, let's just say people have ignored our advice. They've arranged a short notice boudoir shoot in their own hotel with no chaperone, with a photographer they've never met before, and it all goes pear-shaped. The photographer turns up, he's had a few drinks, he thinks it's a date, and just, wants to try and overstep the boundaries. How would someone get themselves out of that situation safely, would you think?
This is a really difficult one because I'm assuming that the model is in their room, like it's their room, not the photographer's.
Yeah.
I think the only thing you could realistically do is make up some kind of excuse to get out. And it's, something like, oh, sorry, my friends leave me downstairs for 2 minutes, I'll be back, or whatever. Go to security, also go to the front desk to explain, hiya, I've arranged a photo shoot in this room. It's not going well. The person has turned up drunk. And in theory, security would go up, get them out, and you'd have your room changed. Because, they wouldn't want to deal with that again.
I think that's the key. And some people might feel a bit embarrassed going down to reception and security and admitting that they'd arranged a photo shoot in their room. But in a situation like that, you know, trust me, the hotel will have heard much worse than that.
Oh,
They'll
God,
they
hear
know that
much stranger stories, and the hotel will be more concerned about your safety than the story you've just told them.
And
Like,
not only that, they
would you
don't
rather
have
feel-
publicity after.
Would you ever feel
Exactly.
embarrassed for a little bit, or have
Or worse.
way worse?
Exactly.
Have,
like-
have the anxiety and the stress that
Yeah,
someone
exactly.
knows where you're staying and whatnot. It's just not worth it. Like you're saying,
Nine times out of
recommendation,
10, 9 times out of 10 in a situation like that, the hotel will then keep an eye out for said person. Or in worst cases, you know, I have known people be in situations like that, and the hotel has literally changed their room, different floor, completely different room number, to make sure that that person is not in the same place. So, you know, I would say to anyone in a situation like that, never feel embarrassed. You know, always speak out about it. You know, the people are there to help you in that situation.
And the other thing is, if you've not, what you do in your room, they don't care about. Like, as long as they're not sleeping over, like, there's no problem. So you going down there and saying, oh yeah, I arranged a photo shoot for this, like, to be in here. You're not breaking any hotel rules. And to be fair, they wouldn't care if you're breaking rules at that point anyway. It's a safety thing.
No.
But if you're feeling like you've broken a rule, you haven't. Unless you've like said, oh, well, I invited these 5 people in and they were going to stay over tonight. It's slightly
The
different.
majority of hotels,
But, like,
the majority of hotels anyway, if you book a hotel, 9 times out of 10, it will be a stay for 2 people, even if you are only staying on your own. Most rooms are made up for 2 people, so they won't care if there's another person in that room, as long as you're not breaking any laws.
The non-guests in your room that shouldn't be there. So
Exactly.
You know, you invited a guest, if that say they're welcome, you need them removed.
Precisely. There's just one more thing I wanted to touch on safety before we move on to a little bit of con etiquette, and that's I also hear a lot of horror stories from people, particularly on the cosplay side, where they go to a con either for a first time or just to save money, and they share with I'll say cosplay friend, but someone that they've known for 5 minutes and met at a couple of cons and had a few drinks with them and over.
Oh, did you say you don't want to stay with me anymore?
And
so it's
to
about
save money
me on the podcast.
Yeah, sorry, dude.
I mean, it was
and they'll share a hotel room with someone at a con that they barely know. Probably, you know, possibly of the opposite sex, or I mean, you know, that's based on the stories that I've heard. And during the weekend, it all goes horribly wrong. The person has got the wrong idea. You know, they try and make advances that aren't welcomed, and in some cases haven't taken no for an answer, and it's all just gone tits up. So the other thing I'd say to people is if you're gonna share accommodation, and I know cons, you know, there's more and more cons on the calendar, and they're getting more and more expensive, particularly hotels. So I get people trying to save money, but just please be very careful of who you're sharing with. If you're going to share with people, make sure you know them, like really know them, not just someone you've met once. Or
communication is the most important thing there. So even if it's someone that you don't know very well, but you do feel safe staying with, make sure you're having that conversation with them to say, just so you know, I'm going to be coming back by myself every night. Are you going to be coming back by yourself every night? Just to make sure you know where each other are at, because one person might have one idea and another person might have another idea of what the weekend's going to look like. So it is very
just
set boundaries.
Exactly.
I was just saying the same
set
thing.
boundaries, communication and honesty is the absolute key.
And discuss what you expect from a con.
Yeah.
Are you going to go out drinking and the other person doesn't drink? Like, are you out partying till 2 a.m.? The other person's going to be back early at like 10 p.m. like things like that.
Yeah.
I won't share. I don't do hotel rooms. I'm sorry. I'm too old. And I'm sharing with other people. I'm booking an Airbnb. We all have our own rooms, and usually multiple keys, so we can all get in. Like that's just how.
Yeah.
It's easier.
Yeah.
'Cause then if some of you want to go walk back earlier,
I occasionally
do
I occasionally do a hotel if it's somewhere like the Sunborn that's a bit bougie and a nice big room, somewhere like that. If I can get it cheap enough, which not very often, then I don't mind. But
That's
generally,
'cause you're
I'm the same. I'd rather. Well, yeah,
Sunborn's very nice. The rooms are huge, so you can.
the rooms are huge. Yeah, exactly. And I like my space. I like my comfort. Cons. I like to be able to sort of like chill and chuck all my gear and charge.
I
like
just spread all my stuff
million-
out and
And it's the same for a photographer, like 50 million batteries to charge up when you finished in the day.
Yeah.
Or if
do you remember the batteries I was
20,000
charging?
rotor lights. Say again, Dec?
I had I was going to say, do you remember all the lights I was charging at bloody MCM London?
And that was a massive apartment as well. And we pretty much filled the
Living
I filled the kitchen.
like charging shit.
I filled the kitchen. I was charging like 15, 16 batteries. That wasn't even plus camera batteries.
Yeah. Yeah, it's insane.
The pictures
Yeah,
look beautiful.
I'm
sure
the
they
same.
do.
I'd much rather have space. And the last year or two, I've taken more to sort of sharing apartments with people. But it's always with people that I 100% know and trust. If I'm ever going to have anyone in sharing an apartment that I don't know that well, it will never be just me and them. If there's a group of us and there's one person that I don't know that well, I'm fine as long as one of us knows that person. It just
because we had that with
doesn't take risks.
with the latest one.
Yeah,
because there's a couple of my friends who.
Yeah, exactly. Just be mindful, guys, and just think about who you're sharing with.
Be demure, be mindful.
And also, if you are on social media, don't be posting photos of what hotel you're staying at until after the event. Like that's what I do.
I was going to mention that earlier. When you're at con, don't mention where you're staying because people will just.
People are watching and they're taking it in, and that's why I've stopped posting when I'm.
People are
across the coffee in my own town, because someone's turned up before and was like, "Oh, I saw on your story you was here." So now I'll be posting something an hour later. I'll take photos if I want to have a story. I'll post it the next day.
I bumped into a follower in Mauritius.
It's random, isn't it? I do an Aldi and stuff. I'll just be doing my shop.
I wasn't. I mean, I posted where I was the day after because it was a specific hotel there. And then someone DM'd me saying, "Oh my God, are you staying at ... And he turned up the next. He was perfectly fine, but what the hell?
Yeah.
They might not
don't
have been.
know.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, I like trains. Nice.
That's so on brand.
I have to tell you what me and Steph did.
What did you guys do on the
Hogwarts
train?
Express.
Yeah, I said no because we went to. So Steph and I went to the Harry Potter Universal Studio tour, not Universal, Warner Brothers tour, and obviously the Hogwarts Express is in the studio.
Yeah.
And as soon as I walked around the corner and saw it, I went right. Need to send something to Chloe, so we did this little me and Steph did this little video of we like trains, and then we sent it over to Chloe. Oh, Darren got a copy of it as well, but I just couldn't help ourselves.
I was going to find
cute.
it. Where is it?
No,
Tell you what, lots of my friends did not like trains today with that bloody outage.
no.
Oh my
We
God!
like trains.
We like train. We like train.
I loved it so much.
I need to go to Harry
fun.
Potter World.
It's fun.
Well,
It's good fun.
I've never done it.
So, now we're going to talk a little bit about general con etiquette. And we're going to start with personal space and boundaries. I know we touched on this a little bit in safety, but I think this also falls under the etiquette bracket as well. So yeah, you can be quite often. You can be at a con and you can be around a ton of people, some of which you'll know really well, and you're quite happy to, walk up, give them a hug, whatever. And then there'll be other people that you don't know so well, and those people will have seen you give one of your friends a hug, but not know your friends, and they'll go and do the same without asking. I think boundaries and personal space is another thing that people often aren't aware of or don't consider at cons. It's a very friendly space. It's a very friendly sort of type of event, but some people aren't comfortable with having their personal space invaded, even by like their best friends. So how do you generally communicate about what your expectations are and what your boundaries are at a con?
So I don't know if you guys have seen them, but there's templates that sometimes go around on socials before con, and it's like, okay with hugs, okay with handshakes or whatever. I find those really, really useful. Even for
really
people
useful.
I've known for a long time. Sometimes I'll post them and it will say, oh, like not too comfortable with hugs, and I'm like, okay, cool, noted. So then I won't like run and hug them like a crazy person. But yeah, for myself, my rules aren't too specific as long as I know you well enough. Like for the most part, in person, I'll say hug, and then if they say no, I'll be like, cool, like that's fine.
Yeah, same.
But I think it's just for some people, it's a comfort thing. Not everyone's comfortable saying, I don't really like to be touched. Like, do you know what I mean? Some people are, and that's great. But I find those templates are really helpful source because they're not saying it directly to a person, so people are more comfortable putting it out there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I mean, even if it's people that I know, if it's not someone that I know really, really well and I would consider a friend, I will still ask them at each event, are you okay for a hug, or do you want a hug? Or I'd just rather get the awkwardness out of the way, and if they want it, they want it. If they don't, they don't. And quite often, even if they don't want to say no, you can tell from their body language whether they're comfortable with it. So if you're unsure, just don't. It's just one of those. And I think you're right. The templates that you see out there, there are 1,000,001 of them, and they are really, really useful. Definitely worth using. More importantly, definitely worth taking note of if you're planning on meeting a lot of people. But from a photographer perspective, not just meeting with friends, if I'm generally just meeting someone for a shoot they've arranged with me, unless it's someone that I know really, really well, I just generally won't. I'll just meet them, I'll greet them, and I'll try and keep it as professional as possible, because at that point, even if I have seen their template online, if it's someone I haven't worked with before or I haven't worked with much, I'll just want to keep it as a professional networking interaction to use that session to get to know them a little bit more, if you like. And when you become a bit more familiar with someone, a couple of cons down the line, then you kind of get to judge. But for me, if it's just general chatting, meeting with friends, then fine. But for me, if I'm meeting someone I've not worked with, it'll just be a professional kind of interaction and exchange. I don't know about you, Dec, whether you're the same in that respect or.
Yeah, I think so. I don't touch or hug anyone that I don't know or haven't shot with multiple times, and I know that boundary is okay. When shooting with someone, if I'm coming closer to them for like portrait shot or like crop shot or anything like that, I'm always like, hey, just wanted to let you know, I'm planning on coming into your personal space and getting a bit closer. Is that okay?
Same. If I'm, if I wanted to like a headshot and I'm using a 50, I'll usually just say I'm just going to come in for a couple of close-ups just to keep them so that they're not all of a sudden surprised by this photographer like in their face.
Yeah,
that's really. Some people don't. Some people silently just go for it, and you're just like,
So I steal a technique, I adapt a technique back to my makeup retail days called co-collaboration or co-creation. So I will take a shot, and if there's something wrong with it, I will show them the shot and explain what I want to do next. Guns is a really easy one for this, because where you hold a gun to be normal, it's blocking your face.
You just a little bit off. Yeah.
So it'll be like, okay, so this will feel weird to you, but if you look at the picture, your gun looked off. If you hold it like this, it'll be different. I will never touch a prop without talking. I'll never adjust hair, any of that stuff, because it is like, especially real hair, but even a wig is an extension of the person. So unless it's someone that I am super comfortable with, like my core photography friends who we shoot outside a con, we all go out, we hang out as friends. But anyone that's not that caliber, I'm not touching you. Like, unless you're like, look,
to be fair,
I'm posed, can you move
to be
me?
fair, even if it's someone that I know really, really well, that I've worked with a million times, I will still always ask them.
Yeah.
Well, I do. I get told
I've got, same. I've got some friends that I shoot with regularly, and they'll literally at the start of the shoot, they'll turn around and say, Darren, if there's anything out of place, just tell me, or if there's anything out of place, feel free to just kind of touch me anywhere, move whatever you like. But even then, even though we're like really good friends, I will still say, oh, that's out of place. Do you mind it?
Yeah.
It's just, it's manners more than anything. Even with a person you know, it's just general manners. Yeah. With a person you don't know, it's an invasion of boundaries if you don't tell them beforehand. So,
I actually have a story about this.
Please.
My very shoot at MCM. So I'd been to MCMs before, but not as a cosplayer. So this was my very first time as a cosplayer back in 2018. And I shot with this guy who seemed friendly enough, and he looked like a photographer, so I was like, sure. And the shoot was fine itself, but he adjusted things without saying anything. So there was a point where there was like a bit of hair like this, and he came and like tucked it behind my ear, but like directly staring me in my eyes. And I was like, is this like, am I being awkward or is he being awkward? I didn't know what to do with it, so I just went with it. So the pictures are all like really awkward because you can see me being like, I'm uncomfortable. And straight afterwards, I walked up and there were a couple of cosplayers standing to my right. And they were like, how was that? And I was like, did you know that he was going to do that? And they were like, yeah, he's been doing it to people all day. And that was like my initiation to photography.
No, they should have warned you. I'm sorry. That makes me feel bad about them. Like, friends don't let friends get touched.
Yeah, I mean, I was a baby cosplayer, and they didn't really know me. They weren't my friends. They were just cosplayers. But they should have, if they knew he was going to get weird, they should have said something. So
cosplayers should look out for cosplayers. Stop the friends, like cosplayers should look out for cosplayers.
And that probably leads into why I'm so like defensive over people at con now. If I see someone that's uncomfortable, I'm in there because
don't blame you at all.
Yeah,
there's certain photographers it's just that if they're in the area where I'm shooting, I will start watching how they're shooting, because I'm like, okay, I just want to make sure that the model is safe because I feel uncomfortable around you.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm pretty sure he got banned from MCM because he's not been back.
I mean, there are some photographers that kind of do that kind of thing a lot, and in some cases, it's not that they're bad people; it's just that they don't know any better, and they're not. And no one's educated them, and they've not seen any.
Sometimes no one's corrected them.
Like this, maybe telling them they shouldn't be doing it, and this is why I think people should talk about it more. And I know there are people are talking about it more. I mean, I came across a reel on my feed last night, from Tearastar and Ember Wolf, and it was a really, really great reel, and it was a whole thing about con etiquette, pet peeves, things to do and not to do, and throughout the weekend of Birmingham, they'd filmed a load of staged scenes with examples, and I think that was the key bit for me. It's not just putting it in text.
Yeah,
they'd actually done some really, really good examples of good ways of doing things, bad ways of doing things.
was that all about con safety?
Excellent.
Yeah, well, con etiquette,
and I think it was like, I think this is part one. They're going to do some more.
Cool.
And I did message them last night and just ask if it was okay that we mentioned this reel. And yeah, they gave us permission to do so, because I think it's really important to get this message out there. And I think we'll probably share a link to this reel when we put this podcast out as well, because it's something that...
Can you insert reel here? And it just...
We will. I can do. I think they also, I think they've done some stuff with 86th Floor as well within this to help get the message out.
Nice.
And I think it's a really excellent example. So we will put a link to it. And, we just want to say thanks to those guys for doing this. They're two cosplayers that I think a lot of people look up to in the community. I certainly do.
Yeah.
And I think people
angels.
of that level putting the message out there is really, really key to getting more and more people to understand, because there are people out there that are doing some of these things that aren't bad people. They just don't know that what they're doing is wrong. We're not trying to say all the people out there that are doing these things are dodgy people doing it on purpose because they're dickheads.
Yeah,
some people
just have understanding
some
or
people,
lack of
knowledge.
I've had to educate myself as well, because I don't know what I've grown up in, where I've been conditioned to think it's just normal for everyone to touch each other. But I think it's more for younger people as well, where it's like, I'm 34. I'm not saying it's okay that back in the early 2000s, we'd go to gigs and get felt up. It was just the norm. And
I mean, that was pretty sad.
When it does happen, we're just like, oh yeah, But obviously now things get spoke about more, and I think the younger generation are better at speaking up about what's okay and what isn't, whereas we were just kind of taught to accept it, and that's what happens if you're a female or even male. People are talking about it more now.
It was definitely a generational thing back then. Yeah. Very much like, contain it and let's not talk about it. It happened. You're uncomfortable. Let's move away. Yeah.
If you walked through a club or something and someone grabbed your, you just kept it moving, or you gave them a dirty look and kept it moving. There was nothing more to it. But
I just wanted to touch on. Oh,
you're not allowed to touch.
Consent.
Without consent. Because every time we touch, I get feeling. I just wanted to touch on the Chloe mentioned guys as well, or something. I think Chloe mentioned guys as well. Things happen to guys, and they're not
so
reported.
It's not just females; it is guys as well.
No.
So I've got a friend.
I think you're right. Even now, guys will have these experiences, and very, very rarely will anyone get to hear about it.
Yeah.
So I've got a guy friend who got touched at an MCM event by a female photographer. They won't tell me who it was, and it's one of those things. It's really messed them up mentally, because they'd seen my con safety videos and stuff, and they missed me afterwards. They're like, "Well, I just thought if this ever happened to me, I'd hit the person who did it. I'm a big, strong man. This wouldn't happen to me." And basically, the female photographer, under the guise of adjusting his belt, went up to him, adjusted his belt while groping.
I know who you're talking about, actually, and it's not on.
What the hell?
It's really so it's really fucked them up, and it's not talked about. They won't talk about it. I can't. They don't want me to do anything further with that. But they have then, we've spoken, they're beforehand, if you had told me this would happen to me, I wouldn't have believed it. But it does happen to guys, and it's not spoken about.
no, it's not.
I think
This does-
sometimes it's the shock factor. I think sometimes people are like, "What?"
Yeah.
And then it's not until after that you're like, "Oh, that was assault. Like that wasn't okay."
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
This
And
what
the
Doug
other
was
thing
just
is
saying
you
brings me
see-
on to another.
I was
So
going to say, the
going
other
off of
thing
what you were
is
saying,
when
Jack.
you go first. You go first.
All
You
right.
go first.
All right, so this brings me up to another conversation, and this you all know this story, Dec. And the person this happened to has said that they are happy for me to talk about this. Back at another con earlier in the year, he was cosplaying a certain character. I don't want to say his name because he hasn't said to go with the name, so I'm going to keep the cosplay a little bit less. But anyway, he was cosplaying, and there was a female who was cosplaying like a counterpart to his male cosplay. Problem was, what happened is she got very touchy-feely, and at a point he couldn't actually. He was restrained in a jacket sort of thing, so he hadn't got used to his arms. He couldn't get away, and he felt really uncomfortable because she was doing some bits and pieces to him that he wasn't comfortable. He did have a chaperone. He had a friend with him, but he was off either at a school or off somewhere else doing something else. But
So the chaperone would turn
and
around talking
it
to
worked.
someone else at the time.
Yeah,
at the time, thank you. So it wasn't cool. He did actually bring it up with the person that he wasn't happy, but it really put a negative mindset on him for future cons. Like, he was really worried about going to London because of X, Y, Z. He had conversations with with Darren, myself, my partner, and a few other bits and pieces, because I was there at that con that day. I didn't see it happen because he was off doing his own thing. But when we heard about it, I was like, the hell, that's not cool,
totally.
you know? And he's telling her to stop, but yet she didn't get that hint. She was like, oh, you're male, it's fine. It's not fine.
Yeah.
That's not fine.
This is another thing as well. This is another thing. If you're cosplaying a character, you'll go to cosplay meets, or you'll be hanging around, or you'll bump into other people that are cosplaying characters from the same fandom that maybe have interactions in the game or the TV show or the movie with your character. And people need to, again, understand the whole personal space and boundaries thing.
Yeah.
That, you may be cosplaying that character, but you are not that character.
Yeah.
You are not that person. So if you do want to have certain interactions from that fandom between those two characters, discuss beforehand, ideally, before even the event.
Yeah.
Or at least at the time say, oh, I'm sure you're aware these two characters at this point in said episode do this. Are you comfortable with us acting out a scene similar? Or I know when we did that shoot at Leak Street recently, Dec, when we did the Arcane stuff, we were shooting with Annie and Lilia, and Annie wanted to sort of act out a certain scene, and she was very, very clear in her intentions to Lilia. The scene, are you comfortable with that? And it was all discussed and talked out in a really, really clear, precise way. And that's exactly how it should be.
Yeah.
And at any point
just want to
then,
interject.
any person that party to that can say no.
For sure.
Just so people are aware. No, just to make people aware, that wasn't the adult scene. That came out in episodes later. Obviously, Lilia was 16.
No, this
I
was...
just wanted to make sure people were aware.
No, this was...
It wasn't the adult sex scene.
No, this was the scene from I think this was the scene from season 1.
Because
Fake scene,
I think Act 1, Season 2
is
only
to make
just
sure
come out that
people
weekend.
listening were aware. Because I know
it's
people like so.
Yeah. No.
I think the counterpart conversation
just using that as an example of... Say again, Tess?
I think the counterpart conversation is important, though. Like,
it is.
It's more common at cons than you'd expect. Until you pointed it out, I'd completely forgotten. But I cosplayed Spider MJ to one of my first cons. It was like the second day of my first con in cosplay. I got picked up by about 4 Spider-Men.
Yeah.
And they were strange. They weren't people I knew. They all had masks on, so I didn't even know if I knew them.
I was literally gonna touch on that as well. That you know,
she's
the
Spider-Man
amount
people.
of people
I know,
Well,
goddamn these
the
Spider-Men.
amount of
Freaking Spidey.
friends, female cosplay friends that I know that have had issues at cons, and I'm going to say with people dressed as Spider-Man as an example, but generally people in cosplays with full face masks who are difficult to identify, and they'll either just come up and ask for a shot, and then they'll touch places they shouldn't, or they'll grope, or they'll just walk past in a group and they'll grope, or they'll be, you know, just because you are in a mask and have that element of anonymity, don't automatically think it's just a license to do what the hell you like. I mean, that isn't an example of someone that needs that doesn't know better. They do know better. They do know what they're doing.
Because that's like a real life version of someone that don't have a profile picture.
It really is. It really is. Yeah. You know, so, but yeah, going back to sort of, you know, the characters and interacting with other people that are around that are from the same fandom that might interact, just, you know, and the same was personal space and boundaries. Like the 3 things I've got here in the prompt, and I think they're quite relevant, is respect, communication, and ask. You know, and I really can't stress those 3 things enough. But the other thing as well is just general photography etiquette. Moving away from the general safety aspect of etiquette, photography etiquette, just little things like when we send photographs out to people, don't stick a filter on them. Don't do your own little edit and then post it and tag us.
Yeah.
You know, wherever possible, I know the Insta crop, the Insta ratio is a royal pain in the ass, but don't crop out the watermark. And if you have to, please tag the photographer or the videographer. The amount of shots I still see posted without a tag for the photographer. And in some cases, photographers posting and not tagging the cosplayer.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I always got into the habit of tagging the people I work with and sharing as many images as I can with the people that I worked with. Back in my model photography, lingerie shoot, fashion shoot days, way before cosplay, but the simple fact is, selfishly, more people will like a model's shot than they will a photographer's shot. So naturally, if I want to get the maximum reach, I'll tag that person, and if possible, I'll collab with that person because it gets it out to a wider audience. So, you know, not only is it a polite etiquette thing, but it also helps the photographer to tag people. And the same with the cosplayer. You know, you might be a cosplayer that's only got a few hundred followers. If you've worked with a photographer that's got like 5,000 plus followers, then your reach is going to be infinitely better if you tag them.
Yeah.
And another
collaboration's important.
Absolutely. But a real pet hate of mine, and I might cop a bit of flack for saying this, is the infinite amount of stories you'll see people share where they're doing like a massive glow up stories, bigging up all their cosplay friends. Oh, this such person amazing, this such person amazing. And they'll post all these shots from the different cosplayers' profiles, but that are all taken by photographers at cons. And not once will they tag the photographers. They'll tag the cosplayer that they're bigging up, but they won't also tag the photographer. If I'm wishing
sometimes they even put the cosplayers' tags over the
watermark. Like if I'm wishing someone a happy birthday, if I'm using another photographer's shot to wish that person a happy birthday, I'll still tag the photographer.
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
Just politeness. the amount
Yeah,
of
just
people
like,
that
oh,
don't,
happy
is real.
birthday. I love this shop taken by so and so, so and so.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah, bare minimum, just put a little camera and then the photographer's name.
Nicely.
yeah.
There's still a cosplayer that I won't work with because they're notorious for copying out watermarks and not tagging. Now, I don't have a watermark, but
Oh,
it already offends me.
Yeah.
Fair.
You know, and I know
One
some
of the
people
things
do
is
it.
'cause they don't watermark and they don't.
Yeah.
So they crop out watermarks and then they don't tag. So I'm not getting anything out of
Yeah.
this because I don't watermark. But you could tag me.
Fair.
And I think there are people, some people out there that just generally that's the way they are and they don't care. But I think a lot of it occurs because they don't realise that it's bad etiquette. You know, and again, if just a little thing, you know, to educate people, you know, it's just politeness and it helps them and it keeps the togs happy.
Yeah.
And if
From
the
a
togs are
cultural
happy, they'll want to work with you. But the same with us as well. You know, if we consistently don't tag the cosplayers we're working with, they're not going to want to work with us.
Yeah.
And rightly so. It's a two-way street, especially when we're working at events. Like, it's a little bit different if you paid someone for a shoot. Like, if someone paid me for a cosplay shoot, then naturally I will send them, the images that I send them will be unwatermarked. But even now, there are still quite a few cosplayers that I work with, that I've done paid shoots with, and they will still say, oh, can you make sure you put your watermark on because I want people to know who's taking them? And that's actually, you know, and that's nice to know, even though they paid me for the shoot.
Yeah.
And yet there are
Because
some...
your watermark's not ugly.
Yeah.
No, I do try and keep it as subtle as possible.
There
I've
are
seen some really horrible ones.
some
And they
interesting.
put them in the worst places as well. And I'm like, that just doesn't look right. Like,
Yeah, I mean, some people's watermarks, they might as well just be like, it might as well just be a Shutterstock image with like watermark all over it. It just looks that bloody.
I do have a confession on this topic though. So quite regularly, if it's a friend of mine who's a photographer or someone who's been hired to make something for that shoot and they're not credited in the picture or in the TikTok, I'll always be in the comments like, love this, and then I'll at the person that I know was involved.
Yes.
And I just keep doing it until because I'm going to tell you now.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's
I'm terrible for doing that as well. Because it just gets
do it like passive aggressively though, like with a little like smiley face.
I think for me, what I'm doing,
face.
I know when I'm doing a lot of my tags and stuff like that or collabs, I always reach out to the cosplayers first before I do a post, and I'm always like, well, do you prefer to have a collaboration or do you prefer a tag? Because they might have something else scheduled, but they want to be part of it. So I always check to make sure, because I don't like just shoving it straight on a collab and then it gets surprised, it ruins whatever someone else is doing. So I always do that. But then I also have a few cosplayers that I know that like to add extra bits in, who like to tag in props or something like that. And I'm like, I always have that dialogue with the cosplayer, and I'm always like, if there's anything that you ever want added into a description or tag people within reason, obviously, as long as it's not like a paid promotion sort of thing, but if it's someone using like props or something, then if someone lets me know, I'm more than happy to tag that person and shove that in there and say prop or whatever the prop is by such and such. I mean, I've done it with wigs. So Carla does wigs. And so occasionally when someone goes, oh, my wig was styled and done by Carla, I then go, okay, no worries. I'll then tag Carla's wig profile because that helps her at the end of the day. And it's all good.
Absolutely. There's another, brings me on to another couple of things just in the tog etiquette thing, and that's, you know, I get that sometimes cosplayers are excited about the people that made some of the props, or they may have been gifted something by a company to use for cosplay shoots or whatever. And this is a bit of a personal preference thing for me. If you're posting one of the images that we shot together, don't invite a company that made the cosplay or the prop to collab on the post without asking me first. Because if it's just your friend that styles wigs or helped you out to make something, absolutely no problem. But when that's a business that has gifted you something in return of you promoting their product in photos, then for me, that's bordering on a commercial advertisement. And if you want to collab with them on a post, ask me first.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, if you ask me first, as long as it's not a brand that I disagree with, I'm not going to have a problem with that, because again, the reach is going to expand. But it's just polite to ask the
open
first.
communication is important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, just because I've been teaching myself, just because I'm okay with somebody doesn't mean someone else is. So I need to start asking. Because I'm one of them people that, I used to be so bad at it where I just assume, everyone's,
like it's a process.
the same, and we're all like, everyone's, do you know what I mean? So, it's a learning thing as well, though, because going into the whole photography thing, like, if you've worked with loads of different ones, everyone's got different preferences.
And it is a bit of a minefield. It is, because everyone likes to work differently. And all the different togs have do's and don'ts in their own morals and opinions and experiences. So the key really is, again, coming back to the respect, communication, and ask. Those 3 things. Lastly, touching on tog etiquette, and this one's attacking the togs a little bit, really, and that is 2 things: sniping and interrupting a shoot when a cosplayer and a photographer are already working together to try and get a cosplayer to shoot with them. So sniping, first of all, it's something I touch on a lot in my Secret Con tog briefs.
Yeah.
But anyone out there
Did you ask for consent
that doesn't know
touched
what
it?
sniping. Yes.
Good.
But anyone new that's watching that doesn't know what sniping is, if you're at an event and you're walking around a con and you see a cosplayer that you're really impressed with, you think, that's great, really want to get a photo, but they're already shooting, they're already partway through a shoot with another photographer. If you just, from a distance, get your camera, take a shot, or you rock up, stand behind the photographer just after he's set the shot up, take it over his shoulder, that's sniping. It's probably the cardinal sin for me as a photographer, and one of my pet hates. And I've got to the point now where I react in a really passive-aggressive way to snipers. So generally, if I'm shooting with someone, especially if it's someone that I know, I think this happened with us, Chloe, when we were shooting at MCM London.
When we was outside,
We were shooting outside by the trees, and all of a sudden there was a sniper. So I was like, Chloe, just stop for a minute. We've got a sniper. And I'll literally just stop shooting.
Like stand still.
And get the photographer to just, get the cosplayer to just stand normal, not posed. The other person then has not got a shot. And if they have, it's going to be crap. I'm not going to spend the time I do being creative, setting up lights.
I was going to say all them lights as well. Like,
in a certain way, if someone else is just going to come and shoot over my shoulder. Like, there are certain people that I call friends in the tog community that I will quite happily let them come and shoot over my shoulder. These 2 guys are 2 of them. There's a couple more that I regularly go and sort of shoot with in teams around cons, and we'll all just shoot at the same time. But even then, the majority of the time, one of us will say, "Oh, do you just mind if I get this?" Even though we've all shot together so many times, we still ask because it's just polite.
Yeah, it is
so
polite.
if you're walking around a con and you see something you like, either wait until the cosplayer and the photographer are finished shooting, or if you see a break that you feel is a suitable, non-rude time to interrupt, just go, "Oh, sorry to interrupt. is it okay if I grab a few shots after you've finished? Or say, I'm just rushing past, would it be okay if I grabbed a quick shot now? People have done that to me, and I've gone, and I don't even know them, and I've said, yeah, sure, just grab a quick shot. And then, as long as the cosplayer's okay with it, you're good to go. And they say, yeah, right, and they grab a shot and they're on. Don't just rock up, or stand like half a mile away with a 300mm lens and shoot from a distance.
Yeah.
Especially when you're outside the barrier and you've not even paid for a ticket. They're just the worst.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons now that XL are so hot on, because they've obviously had a lot of reports and issues. But yeah, the other thing is, and I've had this happen to me, and I'm not going to name the photographer,
Dec.
but he is known for doing it. And you'll be doing a shoot, you'll be shooting with a cosplayer, and he will rock up to the cosplayer, he'll know them, he's shot with them before, and he'll start just a full-on conversation with them mid-shoot. Oh, do you want to just come and like shit? And he'll literally almost try and poach them to go and shoot with them himself. And I'm like, dude, that is fucking bang out of order.
Yeah.
And to the point that I just won't. I mean, me and this photographer don't speak now because of it. He just, if he sees me walking towards him, he turns around and walks the other way. Because I'm just like, the way I react is just like, dude, yeah, do you mind? We're actually in the middle of a shoot. Yeah, you want to arrange one, do it later. It's as simple as that. I've just got no time for people with no manners. I really haven't.
I had it at MCM October because I had all the rotor light. And I like shooting with them on because it makes my life easier, and I like continual light versus flash. However, I have made the perfect lighting setup so any fucker could snipe behind me and use my lighting setup.
Man.
Shut up. But then
your lighting setup was
day,
like one of them 360 rigs. It was like,
when you walked out the XR, you couldn't tell if it was dark or if the sun was coming up. It was that blind.
my record was 9 lights at one point, okay? So we got some stunning photos. But the next day,
you got some good ones.
I put them all on flash, and it was like, oh wow, no one's sniping me when they can't use my lighting setup.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
The other thing that's really funny about me and Darren shooting together, I don't know if we ever told you this, Chloe, but there's like a couple of photos of you that we took at Sea from prison, and Darren posted one in the Discord group, and I was like, for fuck's sake, and he was like, what? And I just suddenly posted like almost the exact same photo with the same colour profiles. I was like, we both edit really cool. We've both been shooting together. I was like, I didn't have time to like apply this edit that he'd done in like the 2 minutes that he sent it. I was like, I've done the same edit to this photo. Like, I'll post it now. You just posted it, and people are going to think that's copied
so often we're merging into the same person.
Yeah.
Well, this is it. We both go for cooler undertones. There's a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
That was really good for that kind of.
Unless I'm shooting out in bright sunlight, and then I tend to heavily lean into the sort of the golden hour look.
Luckily, even then, I cool it down. So it's the bright sunlight shoots we can differentiate.
Happy days. But you generally don't shoot much flash anyway, do you?
No, although that's changing.
You're gonna. If you get accepted to VT, you're going to need to, I think, because it's going to be bright, it's going to be June, it's going to be sunshine, and the locations you're going to need to use flash, definitely.
Yeah, this is one of the things. So I'm going to need to,
and it stops people sniping.
It does.
So,
although I wouldn't say
win-win.
Snipe at a photographer-focused event.
I would hope not. I mean, we have had it at Secret Con events in the earlier days, and it's one of the things that we've worked hard to stamp out with the photographer brief. And we now email out the photographer brief to everyone. So, because we do get a lot of new people at Secret Con. We do get a lot of people coming over from the model group shoot side of things that haven't shot at cosplay events before. So that to them, that's the norm. It's a free for all, but trying to educate people a bit more, and I think it's working slowly.
I had a really fun idea about this, actually. You know the Secret Con top briefs you send out that 80% of people don't read? you should put a thing in there with like a secret passcode that if they come up to you and like say the secret passcode, you give them a prize or something. Because it'd be really interesting to see people walking around with like a badge or something and be like, I read the rules. I read the brief.
That's funny.
I just think that'd be so cool to see how many of those you give out over the weekend.
Do it, just like, I read the rules and all I got was this stupid badge.
Yeah. I read the rules and all I got was a stupid pin. Please, enamel pins are so cheap to make.
Love that.
Well, like that really big, like the birthday badge for Dec. It says, "It wasn't me that was shooting spicy at Secret Con."
I got so much flack. I did shoot spicy, but I shot to boudoir level and it was completely pre-planned. But there was that person who was caught
to do that,
and everyone the next day was me. They haven't even had to tell people it wasn't me.
Do that. I think we could do that pricing with like little NFC chip key rings or something, so we get a bit of promotion out of it as well. I think that'd be quite cool.
Yes,
I might look into that.
Do it.
It's a little bit off topic again.
One thing that I wanted to, we wanted to discuss, obviously it's been all over the news recently about the sort of general thing that was set up to help people in bars and clubs around the UK. I think it was like Ask for Angela. Yeah, I think it was. And that sparked me to think, in the cosplay community, quite a lot of people have general localized agreements with their friends, or they'll post something and say, oh, if you're in trouble, say this. With all the issues that go along, especially with the mainstream events, do you think it would be a good thing if there was like a universal phrase or something that you could say that all the events were on board with, that the events promoted as well, that all the event organizers and security, that, if you are in trouble and you need help, if you come up to anyone and say this phrase, then we will know you need help. I kind of feel that it would be a benefit.
But what's wrong with just going up to someone and saying, there's a weird guy following me, I need help? Yeah. Like the frangula things more if you're on a bad day and you don't want to alarm them. Yeah. Like if you sat at a table and the waitress comes over, you're meant to be like, oh, is Angela in? So they know you're right there in that situation.
There are people that I know, certainly some of the people we've discussed like tonight that have had bad experiences that I know would not be comfortable saying in front of the person they're having a bad experience with, excuse me, could you help me because this person's a cunt?
Yeah.
They just wouldn't be comfortable saying that. And I think if there was a bit more of a universal phrase, because also as well, if that person is being dodgy, I'd want them to be caught in the act. And therefore, if something was a little bit more under the radar, perhaps then it would help people it would be dealt with there and then, not just like, this person's been a knob, so that person then goes, oh, okay, well, I'll disappear then if this, but do you know what I mean? I don't know.
I'll be like, hey, Tess, have you got any pancakes?
I was like, who is it? Point him out to me. I'm an angry little lady. I'll do it.
Yeah,
pancakes, please.
I wouldn't mind.
That's going to be it now, pancakes.
Or shots. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, shots. Shots.
If you say you want shots, then I'm going to get really disappointed that you haven't got shots. Because I know enough people who like sneak alcohol in.
How do you know I won't have shots on me? I might have shots on me.
Yes, please.
There's a lot of like 14-year-olds that come to these events. Okay. So when a 14-year-old comes up to you asking for shots,
then I will take them.
But also, they might want to do fruit shoot shots.
Exactly.
Yeah. Also, asking photographer shots means photos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does.
Me and
yeah.
But I think something like that could help. But
I just think if there was something universal that the events were on board with, across the board and promoting, I just think it could be. I mean, it can only help,
Especially if anyone who's maybe a little bit nervous or got anxiety
or uncomfortable, or they could be They could be in a really bad situation. The person they're with could be really dangerous or presenting themselves in that way.
That's for Darren.
Definitely don't ask for me. I'd be useless in a situation like that. I'd probably just wade in and hit them with my camera, and that's probably not a good thing.
No, I think your lenses.
But the question is, who is Angela, though? So you don't actually have to be a real person. Darren's a name.
What happens if you ask for Angela, or is Angela in sight, and Angela actually is there, and they go and get her?
Yeah, and she's like, "What?"
I also think about the ask for Angela thing. I'm like, does the person that you're with know about this? As well.
Yeah.
Is it such a well-known?
This is the other thing, but again, I suppose if they do know, and you're asking, then they would potentially know to stop and I don't know.
I suppose you're going to end up in that situation. You're going to be in a big crowded area.
Yeah.
Someone else might hear you say Angela or something like that, and they might clock it and go, okay, this person needs a bit of help.
This person needs help.
Yeah.
And then you might have a swarm of people coming in.
And like a hand sign that people do when they like need help or something.
I can't remember what it is.
Like a kid was getting kidnapped and they did it. And
I can't remember what it is.
So they do.
I did not know this thing.
Yeah, it's a thing.
There's a thing.
So moving away from the con aspect, then more to out of con shoots, private shoots, even paid shoots. How do you stay safe on them? You've not got the same pool of people around you. You've not got security. You might be in a hotel. You might be in the middle of a woods. You might be in a shopping centre, on a beach. You might be in Declan's studio.
I mean, you're going to die anywhere. A beach is a nice place to die.
You're going to die anyway.
True. Up top.
Chloe, what if you were arranging an out of con shoot with a photographer? What would be the things that you would look to put in place to make sure that you're shooting safely, or some of the things that you'd recommend to people if they're not used to out of con shoots? A lot of people aren't. What would you recommend?
Well, first, I'd try to get someone to go with me.
Yeah.
Also, I'd get references, so I'd find out if people have worked for them before, see what the reputation's like.
Yeah.
And try to make it in a space that isn't my personal house or their personal house. Because sometimes it's like you can't leave, or do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like
totally.
And also with so many shoots, you just got to try and make it feel as professional as possible, because
absolutely,
like even if you don't want release for whatever, like it's always good to have certain things in place and written beforehand, like a plan, what's going to happen, what levels you're doing,
definitely
stuff like that.
But
I think the main thing is like use your common sense. Would you just go into the woods with a random person just because they've got the title photographer?
Yeah,
they're still just a random person.
About that recently, actually, about our parents always tell us don't go off with strangers, and then there's a clip of a photographer going off with a model just into the woods that they don't even know it. Just
about the Halloween, I think it was, where it was.
Yeah, I think it was.
You tell your kids that you don't talk to strangers, you don't take
candy.
Don't take candy to strangers.
Then it's like Halloween knocking on.
Go knock on people's doors, talk to strangers, take candy.
Yeah. So I was going to say about the levels. Darren and Switch will know about this one, because I got really annoyed by a photographer the other day when I looked on their Instagram, and the caption said, an implied nude shoot. Implied nude. And when you swiped on that, so the first picture had an object covering everything, so it could have been nude, but everything was covered. That's implied nude. That's absolutely fine. When you swiped, the next image was of the models behind, like they weren't wearing any clothing. Like, that's a nude shoot.
Yeah.
Like, that's not implied nude. That's nude. Like, so I don't want to describe it because I don't want to identify like who the photographer is or who the model is. But
Yeah.
Darren and Switch definitely know who I'm on about. And people need to know what levels are. As soon as an item as soon as you've got no clothing on, that's nude. Implied nude means it looks like you're naked, but you've got stuff covering. Boudoir can be anything, but I would normally say like an implied nude boudoir shoot, or a nude boudoir shoot, or lingerie boudoir shoot, or swimwear boudoir shoot, or whatever, because boudoir is a very encapsulating terms. And then obviously,
it's a very wide
some
term.
people know, like levels above that, they all have like specific iterations, like if someone else is involved, if some, there's lots of nuances, but that's higher levels than most people listening to this will be shooting. So don't need to go into that, but people need to know what levels are what for safety, because you don't want to turn up to a shoot where you think it's up to an implied nude level and then somebody else take your clothes off or like all your clothes off, because you're not going to feel safe. You might feel pressured into the situation. It's not good. So people need to understand what levels are what levels.
Right.
Sorry,
exactly. I think it is.
That really annoyed me.
No. Well, no. I don't think it is. I think it's all tied in, Declan. There's a couple of points there that you raise that are very valid. There's an understanding of levels. So, like you say, with implied nude, if you're asked to go to do an implied nude shoot, but then you are expected to be fully naked in front of the photographer, the implied part is not just how the end photo looks. The implied part is how you are there at the time of the shoot. If you are fully nude, it is a nude shoot. No matter what area the photographer takes a shot of or what composition they use, if you are standing there with no clothes on, it is a nude shoot. If you are partly covered and it is made to look like you have no clothes on, but you still have clothes covering your vital parts, then it is an implied nude shoot. And I think there are a lot of people out there, both on the model and cosplayer side and the photographer side, that don't necessarily understand some of the levels that they're asking to shoot. And there maybe should be a bit more of an education aspect there. There is also the other element of level pushing, which is something that I used to come across a lot in my non-cosplay model shooting days. I used to shoot up to sort of like full-on erotica and beyond with a lot of people in the adult industry. And I used to hear some horror stories. I'm on, Purple Paw, Adult Folio, various other sites, and I used to shoot with a lot of people that they would clearly have their levels listed out on their profile, and they would get a photographer book them for a shoot. They would discuss the levels beforehand and agree the levels, which is important. Always do that. And then the photographer would slowly but surely, sometimes to the model, almost subconsciously coerce them around into a higher level than they normally shoot. Some photographers actively do this deliberately, and it is wrong. And if at any point, even after you've finished the shoot and you've gone home, if you feel like you have shot beyond your levels without agreement and you're uncomfortable with it, always feel free to communicate with that photographer and say, I feel as though somehow I shot beyond my usual levels. I'm not comfortable with it. Can you please ensure these images are not posted or these images are deleted? It's absolutely your right to do so, even if you've been paid to do that shoot. As long as you've agreed what level you wanted to shoot before that shoot or at that shoot, you are quite within your right to do so.
And as a model or whatever, like, you can just print out your own things to sign as well. Like,
absolutely. I mean, there are a ton of different model release forms out there available for free. There are some that are available on some national model sites. If I can dig some out, I'll try and post some links in the video. that will be useful for photographers and for models and cosplayers. But also as well, if anybody's not used to shooting out at cons and they want an example of some model release forms that they want to use, drop me a DM. I'll quite gladly share mine with you. You know, you can use them as they are and change the logo, or you can change the bits to suit yourself. I'll gladly share my model release forms and image release forms with anyone that asks. Because the more people that use them for out-con shoots, the better. I've now started using my website for booking all my shoots. Myself and Declan are doing MegaCon Dublin in January, and we both arranged a joint studio day over in Dublin, like a studio tour, where we're both shooting up to Boudoir, where people can book us for shoots. And I've done mine through my website, and people book a shoot, they request a slot. As soon as I agree it, the next link they get is for them to put some more information. They have to review and sign a contract and model release, and it won't let them complete the booking without that. And I'm trying to do that more and more, to the point where then people can't physically book a shoot with me without going through that stage. You know, I'm not saying everyone that shoots out of con cosplay shoots has to do a model release form. I would love it if they did. I mean, I don't always, if I'm shooting with people that I know really, really well. But if I'm shooting levels above standard cosplay, I always will, generally these days. It's just good practice. It protects everyone. Everyone's safe.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Good. So obviously, like, for me, if I'm shooting with someone out of a con, even if it's just a normal cosplay shoot, if it's someone I don't know, I will always recommend they bring someone with them. You know, the same as we touched on earlier, chaperones.
Yeah.
Absolutely key. I think if you shoot with someone you don't know, again, they can help move the lights. They can film BTS stuff, because I always forget about that shit. You know, I always come home from a shoot and like, oh God, that would have been really good to have some BTS.
Yeah.
And
Sometimes BTS is my favorite part.
Not 9 times out of 10, the person had someone with them and they could have like shot some film. I just forgot to ask. Or I'll get home and the person I was shooting with had their partner there, and they'll send me a message going, oh, I got some really good BTS, and they'll send it to me. I'm like, oh, brilliant. That's great, because I forgot.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
I did too.
But a red flag for me is if a photographer tries to arrange a shoot with someone and either actively says, no, I don't want you to bring a chaperone or someone with you, or they're trying to like shoot in some really like secluded, out the way place on their first shoot. So, you know, I mean, not everyone uses Purple Port, but places like Purple Port are great to check out references. I wish there was a place for cosplay, for the cosplay community. It's something I've spoke about with the Secret Con team that we are slowly working on in the background. We've got other things that are more of a priority to put in place first, but our ultimate goal would be to have almost a community space like a Purple Port, but for cosplay.
Could you do that for your podcast?
Yeah.
Like your podcast is more, it's like cosplayers and talks and stuff in it. So,
you know,
maybe having like a Facebook group or something.
Whether it's a Discord
community area
or a website. I think a Discord would probably be good, actually.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to manage.
Well, yeah, we were talking about that for here. But...
And not only chat about stuff, but somewhere where you can go and you can write references for someone, good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go and search for people's references. The thing with something like that is, you know, it's only as good as A, what people put into it, and B, the way it's managed. Because you can have like a spat with someone and write them a bad reference, even if they didn't deserve it.
Yeah.
And that needs to be properly managed. And also, you need to encourage more people then to write good things, because 9 times out of 10, if you have if you go down to the shops and you buy something and you get it home and it's shit, first thing you'll do, you go on and you'll write a bad reference.
Yeah.
How often do you buy something that's great and you write a good reference? More often than not, people will shout about the bad more than they'll shout about the good.
Yeah.
And it's just the nature of things. So I think, if there was a system like that in place, people would need to really be actively encouraged to use it for good and bad. You can go on social media, you can check out a person's profile. If they haven't got many followers, they might not have many shots on there. Ask around the community, ask around your friends, have you shot with this person, have you shot with this person? If you know any other photographers, ask other togs. Do you know this tog? What they like? Have you heard any good things, heard any bad things? There are some togs out there that are, I would say, properly up there reputation wise, that I would gladly recommend to anyone. There are some togs out there on the circuit that are way, way, way down there for reputation. Maybe not so bad that they've been outed as doing dodgy things, but kind of bordering on that edge that you hear some horror stories about them, and you think, are they bad people, or are they just really badly educated? And there's a couple out there that and I think you guys would agree, are on the sort of unsure phase, and they just need to be, if they are decent people, they just need to start communicating better, listen to things like this and other podcasts, and just conduct themselves in a more professional way. I think
reword the ways that they're messaging you as well.
Exactly. I think there are some photographers out there that just get a little bit, after a few meetings, they get a little bit over familiar. And even down to some of the comments they'll put on people's posts. Yeah. And I look at them and I cringe, and I think to myself, even if you are really good friends with that person, you're posting that from your professional profile. Yeah. Other people will see and they might think, oh, I'm not sure about that person. You know, you just got to...
who you're talking about right now.
The only person I will comment to in that way is my own partner. I'd be like, oh, thanks, babe, or love you, babe, or, that kind of thing. I wouldn't dream of being over familiar with anyone else from my professional profile, even if I've known them for years and I've shot with them every week. I just wouldn't do it. Yep. Because once it's there, and it's for everyone to see.
Everyone can see it, and
precisely.
If you're doing it on loads of different people's comments as well, I'm like, are they just really sleazy, just like pointing everyone's things, just being weird?
Or are they just badly educated,
Yeah.
So, speak to the two girls really here. What other red flags might you look out for if you're arranging a shoot with the tog? Like out of
For me, quite a lot of them, it's like the first thing they'll do is be like, "Oh, do you want to do some content for your OnlyFans?" Or and I'm like,
straight off the bat, I'm like never speaking to them, never meeting them.
Yeah, and it's just like, like why go straight there? Like, At least just be like, oh hey, do you want to do some cosplay photography? And if you need any stuff, like.
They'll go straight to the you want to do some stuff for your OnlyFans, and you'll go to their profile and they've never shot anything like that before in their life.
Yeah.
It's a red flag if they've got no content and they're like, I'm just getting into it, and I'm like, then why would I?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. On a similar vein, for me, so my account's pretty PG. Like it's not too lewd or anything like that. But every now and then you'll get someone that will be like, oh, when we shoot, do you want to do a bit more, like show a bit more? And I'm like, why is that the question?
Especially basically, again, like on the sort of opposite side to Chloe, this time you've got nothing on your profile that would suggest that.
Yeah.
And they're asking you to like, it's just like, no.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, I might want to do that, but let me suggest it. Do you know what I mean? Like, let me come to you. Don't suggest stuff because you want to shoot it for your own collection or whatever. It's weird.
So I'd like them to be like, I know you do OnlyFans, so if you would like to do some stuff that I do offer that service as well.
Yeah,
not straight away. I really want to do this.
Yeah, and especially then you go and check out their profile, and they do that sort of stuff regularly, and in a reputable, professional way. Then you're like, oh, okay, fine, we can explore it. So flipping this on its edge, what would be a red flag for you, Tom, if you were arranging a shoot with a cosplayer and an out-of-con shoot?
Oh,
It's
hard. I think for me, if someone had contacted me to do a shoot outside of con that I haven't put like a promotion or something out for, I think I would probably review their account first. Yeah, see what it is they've done in the past, see what their cosplays are, because I'm not trying to be like snobbish or rude. It might not be if their cosplays are something that I'm not interested in, and I'm not excited for, then for me, it's very much like, I don't think you as the cosplayer is going to get the best out of it.
Yeah.
Because if it's a niche or something that I don't know, or I'm not interested in, how can I do that justice? I can't really.
Yeah, you're not invested.
Not putting my creative spin into it. But again, from a red flag, I think if they were really, really pushy, I really, really want to do this, and if I've said, look, that's not mine, but I know of someone else who could be interested. That's their style, that's what they like. Pass their details. But this, they go, no, I want you. I'm flattered that you want me and you like my work. Thank you very much. But it's not for me, and it's not me trying to turn down work. It's just I know what it is that I enjoy shooting, what my style is, and how I can bring it. So I did it quite a lot in my early cosplay photography days, where I would shoot absolutely anybody and everyone. I'm always happy to shoot a lot of people, even if I don't know the cosplay or the niche. And if they just want a handful of photos, I'm happy to do it 9 times out of 10. I have become a bit more, not withdrawn, but a little bit more selective of what it was, because I don't want to sit with 2,000 images and have to go through
editing stuff that you're not into.
I'm not into, because
exactly.
For me, it's not interesting. I can't put my best work into it. So I suppose it's just kind of, from a cosplay perspective, it's kind of just.
Yeah, I mean, I've had I've had people message me before on Instagram, bearing in mind I don't post even from a previous days anything like particularly non-PG on there for obviously Instagram reasons. And I've had messages from female models, again, being really pushy. Oh, would you want to shoot this? And like, my partner will be there and doing this. And I'm like, whoa, hang on a minute. First of all, you don't know me. You don't even know that I'll say, oh, you see me on such and such. Oh, no, I just came across your profile on Instagram. And I'm like, well, hang on a minute. Yes, I have shot that kind of thing in the past, but not what you're suggesting. And it kind of like leading into a way that like down a really dodgy path and being really insistent. And like, I'm like, no. Sorry, that's just like a red flag for me straight away. It's just people just need to work on their communication, I think, a lot of the time. That for me is always key. I would always rather people like err on the side of caution than just go like straight in with expectations and stuff. Because if they just like go straight full ball, blah, 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 and I don't even know them, that's just going to push me the wrong way. And I'm just going to say, no, sorry, I don't want to shoot.
Yeah.
You know, I've become really selective this last 12 months on like what I shoot and who I shoot with. And that's just because I found that I'm the best version of me as a photographer when I'm shooting things I enjoy, or at the very least, I'm shooting with people I enjoy working with. You know, Charlotte Woolwich posted a really good couple of stories about muses and things like that in the last 24 hours, and that's a great topic. I've spoken to her about it, and it's something that I've spoken with people about before, and that I have a couple of what I would call photography muses in the cosplay community, and they are people that I know I will absolutely 100% get the best out of every single time I shoot with them. Whether I spend 2 minutes shooting with them or 2 hours, I will always get the best, and it's because we work well together. They know my style, I know their style, they know what to expect, I know what to expect, and we'll just like get what we need, bang, straight out. And there are also people that I know I could call on at any point if I wanted to experiment with a new lens or some new lights or a new technique, and know that I could shoot with them and not feel under pressure to get results. For two reasons. One, when I'm shooting with them, we know we always get results, but also because that we have that rapport that it doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's another aspect. You know, photographers sometimes come under a bit of flack for, you know, some photographers only shoot with certain people or their friends, etc., etc. And sometimes there's a reason for that. I get the best out of what I shoot if I know the person, and I like what I'm shooting. And there's enough photographers to go around that all have different interests and shooting in different styles. And, you know, again, I always feel safe when I'm shooting with people I know. I don't have to necessarily think about all the elements that we've discussed tonight when I'm shooting with people I shoot with regularly.
I think like when you get to a certain point as well, you just think can be selective. I have a right. You don't have to explain why you don't want to work with someone.
True. And that's not to put anyone off shooting with new people, because everyone has to start somewhere.
Yeah.
But you know, even with shooting with new people, I'm a lot more selective now than I used to be, and that's from various elements: from a creative element, from an interest element. Do I gel well with this person? But from a safety aspect as well, you know, do I think I'm going to feel safe around this person from the conversation I've had with them online or the 2 minutes face to face? And I think you generally get a gut feeling about someone, whether it be a quick discussion online or bumping into them at a con. You generally get a gut feeling about a person. And I think what I'm trying to say is trust your gut.
Yeah.
If you're having communication with someone about a shoot that you've never shot with before and you don't know them and your gut's telling you something isn't quite right, trust your gut.
Yeah.
Just don't do it, or do it at another time when there's like plenty of people around and you know you've got some backup. It's just not, you know, that shot isn't worth risking your safety for. It's as simple as that.
This is why I like Secret Con so much, because it is a dedicated cosplay shoot.
Yeah.
And
this is another reason why I'm moving more towards dedicated photo cons next year. There isn't many in the UK, so I'm moving a lot towards more of the European ones. You know, they have amazing locations. They're dedicated. Everyone is vetted. It's an application process. The quality of work that comes out of it is so much better, and it's just generally safer. I don't think I heard a single issue regarding safety from Volta, not a single one. and I never
Which is
have
amazing.
done about any of their events, which is the way forward for me.
Yeah.
So, the last part, we're going to come on to a couple of questions from our audience that we've asked to send in over the last couple of days. And we've got a few here.
Oh,
So one person sent in something, and this is from a photographer, something that bothers, annoys, upsets you, but is very common at shoots. I mean, for me, it's sniping. I've already mentioned that one. How about you, Dec?
it's a pre-shoot thing. It's assuming I'll shoot for free. Like, cons are different. Like, if we're at a con, it's a collaborative effort. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But, like,
Right.
unless you're my friend, why am I going to drive to a location, spend money on fuel, spend money on a studio, do whatever, and to like do a shoot? If there's something really cool that we will, that like I want to shoot, or I can imagine this would be really fun, that's slightly different. But I have had so many people use the phrase of, "Oh, I'd love you to shoot this. It'll be great for your portfolio." I've been working as a photographer for over a decade. My portfolio does not need you. Huh?
I don't like
It's
that.
very presumptuous.
Yeah.
It's not like that.
Whole entitlement, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
It is.
cheeky.
And
Yeah.
it's normally for people with really low effort cosplays. And I'm not trying to gatekeep. Like, I will shoot people
No, that's fine.
from any level. But if you're asking for my time for free, and you're in a Spider-Man onesie, a Power Rangers morph suit, any of these, like, I've been and purchased it off the rack for under 30 quid. What realistically can you add to my portfolio? If you have made a Warhammer 40k armor suit and you send me a message saying, "Hey, I haven't got a budget at the moment, but I love your style, I really want to get some pictures of this," you know what? I would be more likely to say yes. And again, it's how they just phrase that. "Hey, I haven't got a budget at the moment, but I'd love to shoot with you."
Yeah.
It's very different to "shoot me for free, it'd be great for your portfolio."
Yeah.
Like,
That's fair.
if we're
It's
at
definitely
con, that's
something that you
different.
said
From the same person, same photographer, are there any common red flags? I mean, we discussed quite a few tonight. I would say the one for me that stands out is someone not wanting a chaperone there. I think that's the one for me that I hear a lot.
Yeah. I
Maybe
understand
someone
they
that
can't
you-
get a chaperone there. Oh, sorry. Yes, I was reading that the wrong way around.
Yeah.
I was reading that as the model doesn't want a chaperone there. Because sometimes they don't. Sometimes they can't get one or whatever. But I still like them to be aware that the offers are there. I try and tell them to at least have a digital chaperone, like arrange a phone call mid-shoot or something, that they're going to check up on you or something.
Yeah. And I think the other common red flag is the one that Chloe mentioned, about people messaging you or contacting you for shoots that you've never worked with before and jumping straight to the if you want, would you like to shoot some content for your OnlyFans? I think that is another one for me. Jumping sort of straight to that level, without any like prior shoots or comms. So here's a good one. Again, I've had quite a few from this photographer. How can a cosplayer vet research a TOG they have never worked with? I think we've spoken about this actually. Obviously, there's things like Purple Port, but not all of the in fact, not a huge amount of the cosplay TOGs are on places like Purple Port. But yeah, I think generally just check them out on socials. Ask
That's all you can do, really, isn't it?
your friends, ask for the TOGs.
I'd probably put
Slide
in a
into the
close friend story
DMs.
on it.
Definitely.
I'd say slide into DMs of people who have shot with them on their profile. And also, this sounds really weird, but look at their tags rather than their collabs.
Yeah.
Because sometimes
To see
they'll only
who
sort
they've
of
been
collab
working
with sometimes they'll only collab with like friends or whatever
Yeah.
that like might be slightly biased.
Yeah.
So instead, go to
Yeah.
the tab of
Yeah.
tagged photos. So see people
And
that they've shot that they necessarily haven't posted.
Here's another one as well that's not so obvious, but literally type their photographer name into Google and see if any stories come up.
Mm.
I've found some really dodgy reports on people by doing that, and it's amazing what you can dig up. This one's a really good one from the same person. What steps can photographers take to protect themselves at cons?
Shoot in public spaces, shoot in open spaces, shoot in view of other people. Don't take people down back alleyways.
Have an assistant or a chaperone.
Let people know where you are.
Definitely. And the other one I would always say is when you're chatting about shoots, do it in written form. Too many people use fucking voice notes, and it's really annoying because some voice notes don't stay there.
Yeah.
If you write something down in a chat, it will remain there unless you delete it. But if it can be in written communication form, then you've literally got it there. What's been agreed, what's been discussed.
Yeah. Ideally, an email.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm a screenshotter. If we've DM'd about levels or whatever, because someone could delete, they could unsend a message or delete for everyone.
Yeah.
So as soon as we've had a conversation,
put a little unsent thing in there, so people can still, you can still prove that something was unsent, but you don't know what.
Yeah.
Screen
Exactly.
is a great way of doing it.
if we've discussed levels and you've said, oh yeah, I want to do this shoot up to boudoir level, cool, screenshotters. Because then if you were to ever say that no, we didn't discuss that, I wasn't comfortable, I have a screenshot of that conversation where you said it was. That's all it is. It's protecting myself, my livelihood, my whatever. And 9.9 times out of 10, that's never going to be an issue. But it could, and I would rather have that backup.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, great answers. So all those questions were from Hover Media, and I think they were all fantastic questions.
Very
so
cool.
this one from Citric Silver. What more can conventions do to help cosplayers feel safe and respected?
I think this is really hard, and this is a conversation that I know MegaCon is having in regards to the photographer pass, because all it would take is for someone they have approved for a photographer pass that people then deem as safe and appropriate to then go and do a boudoir shoot.
Negative.
Exactly. All they've got to do is go to a hotel shoot where someone feels uncomfortable, and then the cosplayer says, well, I only did it for MegaCon said it was safe.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a really hard one. And I know
MCM have their signs up saying cosplay is not unsafe.
Yeah, which I'm really impressed with.
I think it's a really hard one for events, because events can only go so far before it comes to a point where they're past that point of return and they're taking liability for things that are beyond their control.
Yeah.
So I think it is a difficult one. Yes,
really
there
difficult.
are more that events can do. Like MCM could promote the functions of their app far, far better than they do.
That's true.
I think there's some really great features in it that they just don't put out there. So yeah, that's a great one. Next one.
Hang on a second. Obviously, we build up to MC. We're going to use. I'll just use MCM as a point, or even MegaCon. On the build up to a con, 9 out of 10, they're normally putting something out there in written format saying X, Y, Z if it's about cosplay or props, or I suppose they could do a whole social media point,
Whole brief,
or segment,
how to stay safe.
How to stay safe, and what do they recommend? Like if you're being harassed by someone,
Recommended tips,
go do these bits and pieces. So they're always posting these things for a con.
Yeah,
in
especially
stories on their page.
especially they send a lot of info out to creators and industry past people and press past people, even if it's just to those. Social media posts to everyone else, but in people with passes, send that information out in the email.
Mm.
Yeah, it could be a thing that maybe if
one.
you are getting a creator pass or in industry pass or whatever, and you've got a social media platform, they could be going, okay, on a run up to the event, could you at some point maybe put out something about safety or about do's and don'ts at a convention? Because they do, obviously you get out creator passes to a lot of people, and you know what, that's a collaborative experience then, isn't it? You know, you're working, you know, you've applied for a pass, you've got it, so why not do something for MCM or MegaCon or LFCC, whoever else, and go through these processes of working in collaborative? Because we're always talking about we'd love to have more collaboration, but it also goes both ways. So if they're asking for people to do that on their behalf as well, that could be a good way of doing it. It also comes across from people like you're saying, like they build a rapport with us on social media and go, oh, like we were saying earlier, like, oh, this person's my friend because I follow them on stories. So they're more likely to engage with it and more likely to take it in if it's coming from someone that they feel that they can relate to.
Like I feel like me, myself, I could do more because I know the type of people that are going to go to them cons and act weird are the people that follow me. So maybe people like us creators, like me, Tess, like we could just maybe try and just put that out there. Just like,
end of the day, it comes down to communication, doesn't it? We're always saying it's communication. It's all it is. Yeah.
So I can definitely do more when it comes to that type of stuff. So I will keep that in mind as well. Like I'll do that.
I just want to put it out there that you shouldn't have to feel like you should do more. It's not
true.
You know, it's not on the creators. It's not your job.
It's not, but it'll help. Maybe.
I think everyone. I think the term is everyone can do more, not just one person or just creators. Everyone should do more.
And that's exactly what I was going to say next. Was like, it doesn't have to be anybody. It could just be it could be togs. It could be event goers. It could be anybody with a platform who cares about it and just wants to put it out there. Just go for it.
Yeah, totally. Right. So, question from Dr. Wero Tog. Saw a Tog story not liking this. Thoughts on the reduced flash rules for MCM Brum? Now, some people might think that this doesn't fit into the safety and etiquette bracket, but I feel it does, particularly after some of the issues at last year's Birmingham MCM, where a ton of photographers set up outside, I think, the small Weatherspoons in the side by the lake. Some of them were like setting up with like 3 and 4 flashes on stands and all going off. And I think someone reportedly had some sort of epileptic seizure brought on by the flashing lights and things like that. And after a raft of complaints, MCM brought in, it wasn't a reduced flash rule, it was MCM rules were, see if I can bring it up actually. I think it was a no flash rule, full stop. MCM Birmingham.
Does that mean no lighting at all? Or does that just mean no flash photography?
Well, it was quite, have a look. It was.
So also something about light stands or something as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that rule has always been there. But it was...
what about tripods as well? Like,
here we go. So, oh no, it's gone now. Now the event's finished. Weirdly how they've taken it down. See if I can find it another way.
So while you're searching for this, I have opinions on this.
I just want to read it word for word. So,
my
internet's been slow. Probably. Yes. Well, I will have done in a second.
I think I know where Declan's going with his one.
Any issues with this? I had issues because cosplayers put out some self-righteous stories about it without actually knowing any of the science behind it.
No, I can't.
Yeah, I know what you're on about.
There were issues, and MCM updated their policy. They've always had a policy about no freestanding equipment, and they also added a thing about the use of flash, where they were saying the use of flash is not permitted. Now, obviously, everyone presumed, because it has to be, this was within the MCM event boundaries, but they also then had a bit where they were asking people shooting outside around the areas to be considerate and minimize flash where possible. Now, as someone who's a flash photographer quite often, this obviously impacts me because I'm a creative photographer. I'm not very keen on shooting with natural light, specifically around UK events, because a lot of the venues that the mainstream UK events use are pretty boring in terms of natural light. So I regularly use flash, but I never have done, to my knowledge, use flash inside the event areas. I think I've used a rotor light once or twice. But yeah, so I get where this is coming from in the sense of keeping people safe from things like epilepsy and seizures, and also from the light stand perspective. Some of the things we saw last year at MCM Birmingham were absolutely atrocious. And I'm glad to say none of the photographers that I saw involved were any of the people that we normally see on our general UK con circuit. So yeah, it was an issue, and I think it's fair play to MCM for doing what they can. And this seemed to have a massive reaction at the recent MCM Birmingham, to the point where I don't think I saw... Oh, I did. I saw one person shooting inside around near the Wetherspoons area with a single monopod with a little tiny tripod on the bottom with a very small flash on, just for a couple of shots, taking up no space, minimum flash power. Whatever they did really did seem to impact on the way people were shooting, and most people just tended to shoot completely outside, to the point where I saw messages and had messages from people over the weekend saying, where are all the togs? So whilst I get where this is coming from a safety aspect, and totally agree with it in that sense, it kind of scared almost everybody, even the togs that are generally very thoughtful about what they do and how they shoot. It kind of scared them all off into the far reaches of the outside MCM parts. So I think there needs to be a balance, personally, and it's a tough balance to strike, because obviously the event areas themselves are very packed, very crammed, and you've got to think about people that are sensitive to lights and flashes. Although I would also argue what happens around the stages and the stands, but that's a whole other story.
But they have like flash-free zones.
Yeah,
I mean, to be fair, when I'm using flash, I'm generally using, if I'm at an event, a single flash. And a lot of the stuff, London, if I'm using flash, it's normally outdoors. Birmingham, I will use flash indoors in some of the corridors or out the way, but it's not like flash. It's like literally just like flash, recompose, do another shot, flash, so it's unlikely to cause someone an issue. But I get there's a lot of photographers shooting in an area, you've got multiple flashes going on. I don't know. I'm not quite sure what the answer is.
Maybe it should be a consideration for the cons to have designated areas that are lit properly.
Maybe.
Rather than the standard con light.
Yeah, no. Maybe that is the answer, because as a creative photographer, I'm not prepared to compromise on the style and what I shoot Because if I'm having to shoot something that's so poorly lit, I'm not going to edit it.
Yeah.
No one's ever going to see it. So therefore, I just won't shoot it. I won't waste my time. So at MCM Birmingham recently, I shot a few bits outside, and then I spent some time doing podcast interviews. I just changed the way I used the event as a creator. But I think a lot of people just really had to tail back what they shot and where, which was a shame because the MCM used to be, MCM Birmingham, the NEC, used to be a great venue to shoot at. But I've had photographers turn around and say to me that that's their last MCM Birmingham now. That's really put the icing on the cake for them.
I've had a few people say that.
And don't get me wrong, I do get why MCM took this approach. Because frankly, last year took the piss. And something did need to be done. But I'm not quite sure what the middle ground is. Again, I think a bit like the last question, this is a very difficult one for events to do.
So
what do you reckon, Dec?
I
mean, you're not necessarily a flash shooter, but
I do a lot of flash in the studio, thank you very much. I just don't normally like to carry a front ton of lights with me, but that's changing. Anyway,
exactly.
So I just want to put a preface.
Yeah,
I'm not a medical professional. I'm not medically trained. Blah, blah, blah. This is not medical advice. So I have specifically spoken to, I can't remember the name of the epilepsy charity now, about this, about some other stuff in regards to flash. If a single flash is going to affect someone, that would mean turning a light bulb on in their house would affect them. So that is going to be someone who is very aware of their situation and would not put themselves in a flash photography situation. The frequency that affects people for epilepsy is 5 to 30 hertz, which means flashes per second. So when you look at like a screen, it's 120 hertz refresh rate. That means in a second, 120 flashes has happened. Or in camera terms, in 1 second, you would have had to have done 5 flashes. Most camera flashes do not have a refresh time of 5 to 30 flashes in a second. So unless you're shooting in an area of a lot of people and it all hits off at once.
Yeah, like I was going to say, last year's MCM Birmingham outside the Weatherspoons, at one point, I think I saw like 6 to 8 photographers all set up with a minimum of 3 flashes each, all shooting at the same time. And it was horrendous to see. So I can see how maybe something like that might set somebody off.
I suppose that they've got to put that rule in. Sometimes it's probably easier just to say, no, don't have any, because...
Yeah, because it may well be that it wasn't specifically that caused the person to have a seizure, but that was the standout thing that was going on at the time. And when people were blocking fire exits, walkways, cosplayers were too, I might add, on that particular occasion last year. There weren't only a lot of photographers gathered in that area. There were a lot of cosplayers filming TikToks all over the place, bags all over the shop. So they were also causing, for me as an event organizer, that's a safety concern as well.
Mm-hmm. So
I can understand why. Yeah. So
I think
in terms of light stands and things like that. Yeah. For me these days, I generally tend to have one light stand if I'm outside and about, and I'll have a person stood with it so that it's clear there's a person there, or I'll just get a person to hold the light.
Yeah.
Simple.
The other thing is insurance.
And I think if
how many photographers are not insured? Where so many photographers are not insured at these things.
Yeah.
Probably most of them. And when you think that they're not shooting this with light stands in the event areas, they're out and around, say, the NEC, They may have bought a ticket for the event or not in some people's cases. But if they're not shooting within the event, then they're not covered by the event insurance anyway. So if something was to happen and someone was to have an accident, they're not covered by anything if they're not insured themselves. I personally have insurance. I have 5 million PLI. And I know it's expensive to have insurance, but if you're a photographer that likes to shoot out of event boundaries with expensive gear, with light stands, flashes, whatever, and out-of-con shoots as well, you really should consider having insurance. It's as simple as that. If anything goes wrong, you're covered. And again, I think maybe this whole like photographer pass and that events having some sort of, I don't know. It's easy for us to say as togs that maybe we should have an area, blah blah blah, but we're not entitled to an area to shoot. We're really not. We pay the same price as any other event goer. As a person walking in off the street that isn't a cosplayer or isn't a photographer, we all pay the same price. So we don't have any right to shoot anywhere with anything other than the camera that's in our hand, realistically. And I think sometimes us, the royal us, as photographers, maybe have an unrealistic expectation of what we're entitled to.
There was something that I thought about.
We've had it so easy for so long, shooting at events, pretty much wherever we want, and it's only in the last 18 months, 12 months, that anyone's really been challenged. And I think it's because it's becoming more and more popular now, and more people are starting to use flash and light stands, that it's become more of a problem for events. So, in that sense, I get it, why they're clamping down.
Comic-Con's not a photography event. Like,
it's not.
It's not.
Exactly.
You're meant to go, you're meant to watch your panels, you're meant to walk around stalls.
Exactly.
So,
which is why I only ever have shot with one light at an event, really, if I'm going to shoot. Apart from occasionally down in the car park, 12 LED lights in a corner somewhere. But that's not
I was going to say,
disturbing anyone.
In the trees, sorry, with
Say
me,
again?
you stole a load of my light. You stole a load of my lights to shoot Chloe in the trees.
I didn't steal them, they were already there.
they were just set up anyway.
It would just
And that was outside.
You were signaling Batman.
I feel like when it's outside, though, it's fine. Like, 'cause
Yeah.
you're not actually in the way of the event happening. And
Strictly speaking, though, according to MCM's terms and conditions, that's still
MCM.
against their rules.
Yeah, I did have a kind of a
Do they
thought
want
about
pictures or do
something.
they not want pictures?
I did have a think about something while I was at MCME on the weekend, about like this conversation about togs shooting inside the venue, and if they want togs to start shooting more inside the venue.
Yeah.
It would become at a price, because what I was thinking is if they had a section where it was allowed for togs, you have to manage that. So how do you manage it? It's like, well, do togs buy like a stand area so that they can have flashes in or lights in or whatever, and that gives them then the right to then shoot it in there with flash, and then people could come to them, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an idea. It's not probably the best idea. It could probably be expanded on, but if a tog then bought a space in the venue to shoot, then maybe that might be a way around it for them as well. And it could then be potentially a bit more of a collaborative thing with MCM, and then they get what they want. Photographers shooting more invent.
Again, this is the thing, isn't it? Where comes at a cost to the event. More space costs more money. And I think it was one of the Vienna Comic Cons recently. Some of the cosplayers and photographers that I met at Volta went because it was local to them, and the sets that this con built, they did some arcane stuff. They built a replica of Silco's office. They did some Witcher stuff. They built
I
sets
saw those
for photographers
What
to
was that?
use. and they were absolutely out of this world. Some of the shots I've seen were stunning. I'm going to see if I know Valentin Pitts was there. He did some stuff there. And,
but is that like an actual Comic Con, or is that like Secret Con?
No, proper Comic Con.
Proper Comic Con.
It was VIECC Vienna Comic Con. And yeah, it's a full on Comic Con, full on like Austrian, like mainstream pop culture con. It was just a couple of weeks ago, and it was really, really good to see the sets that they built there. And if any of the cons did anything like that, it would be really, really popular. The problem you got then is you just get people camping there all day, and it become impossible to use. So that's just another problem then. And
maybe that's where the billings, sort of where you have to maybe apply as a photographer to go and use it. I mean, which is not ideal
to use at a certain time.
Could then marshal,
I don't know,
togs in there a little bit.
I think the general answer to that thoughts is it's a complicated situation, and there is no one fits all. I know James is a videographer, so for him, he probably doesn't use a lot of lights that are fixed. So from a videographer perspective, it's probably easier. From a photographer's perspective, again, we can't guarantee what the weather's going to be like, and therefore what the light's going to be like. So the only way to guarantee certain conditions is to control it ourselves with flash or LED. So yeah, it's a difficult one. We don't have any right to be shooting there with lights, but at the same time, it's something that's almost a requirement to get some of the creative shots we want. So I'm really not sure what the answer is to that one. Hopefully cons will continue to
evolve,
look at options and evolve, but we'll see.
They could say that's a you problem though, because it affects our event. Like,
could do. In which case, I'll just use cons to grab the occasional shot I can whenever I can, and the rest of the time shoot stuff for the podcast and network with people for things like Secret Con, where I'm just going to promote it. Photographers can use light stands. I'm not saying other cons are wrong for not, because I get the reasons, but photo cons like Secret Con, Camp Cosplay, Volta in Italy, Focus Cosplay France, Pic Vitia, Pixelmania, they are all dedicated events for cosplayers and photographers to get together and shoot. So
this is where I'm like,
if you want your full lighting setups, those are the ones to be looking at.
I'll ask you a question, Darren.
That creative shot.
And maybe just keep it simple. If you want to use lighting at the mainstream cons, keep it simple, keep it out the way, because what's caused this problem is photographers not being considerate, only thinking of themselves and the shot. And
cosplayers too.
Let's face it, who needs 4 flashes in the inside of the NEC?
Oh yeah, okay, inside's fun. I've got a question for you, Darren. Because you've just brought up Secret Con. So, you don't vet photographers to have insurance. As far as I'm aware, I don't think I've ever sent you my insurance details.
No.
So,
neither do any of the European cons.
No, the European cons have stuff in their contracts you would not get away with in the UK. So, I'm talking about just in the UK here. So, I come to a Secret Con, and I have no insurance, and my light stand falls over and knocks the cosplayer out. Does your insurance cover that? Like, where does that stand? Okay.
So we have very specific things in our terms and conditions, code of conduct, and FAQs that tell you how to behave, what to be careful of, what to do, what not to do. If your light stand falls over or is being used in a normal manner and malfunctions and snaps in half and hits somebody, through no fault of anybody, you're covered. If you are doing anything that goes against anything that we've said in our T's and C's or code of conduct of not to do, then our insurance is not liable, and you are liable as an individual. It's as simple as that.
Oh yeah, because on your thing it says no climbing, no
no
doing this,
climbing,
doing that.
keep things out the way. So if we
People
say
are still doing it anyway.
we say keep your bag out the way and don't block walkways, and you stick a massive
Chloe,
bag and a light stand in the middle of the
Darren shot
walkway.
you climbing and hanging on those on the nooses. I think we're both guilty of that one.
That was
They were being nooses.
that was supervised by a member of staff, i.e. me.
Who members of staff? We were both there.
Exactly. So yeah, to answer your question, if a photographer and cosplayer is operating within our terms and conditions, do's and don'ts, hints and tips, etc., and something naturally goes wrong, that is what our insurance is for. That's why, as a professional event, we have to have insurance, and we are suitably covered. If you are working outside of our terms and conditions, our insurance will not cover it, and our insurance will then pursue the person involved that caused the issue. It's the same as if you have an accident at work where your company enforces PPE, provides the correct PPE, tells you to use it, and you don't use it, and you chop your bloody finger off. Exactly. In a court of law, they'll just go, off, the company wasn't at fault, you're a dickhead. Simple.
Yep.
Totally fair. I was just curious how that works if someone wasn't insured.
Yeah, no. And there are events, I know Volta, you have to sign a waiver.
Yeah, which is what I was saying. That wouldn't go in the UK.
You wouldn't get away with in the UK. Unfortunately, UK health and safety law, it just wouldn't allow it. But it's why events like that do make people sign waivers. But I think if we made everyone buy insurance for Secret Con, we just wouldn't get anybody buying tickets.
No, I wasn't implying they do, but it was just the fact of when you said Secret Con and stuff, I was like, you've never asked me for my insurance. I wonder how this works.
No. That said, any photographer that does have insurance, if an accident was to happen, the first thing we would say is, do you have insurance? And it would go like that. So,
and also, next question, never be afraid to ask if your photographer has insurance.
Exactly. I have insurance. I don't know why I have insurance, but my accountant was like, "Oh,
why not?
Absolutely,
it's a taxable thing.
Why not? It's just safety.
It can happen. I remember when I still have my makeup artist insurance because I still do makeup, but it's not my main income source anymore. But I remember like a wedding venue not letting me work with them unless I had like 10 million 10 million public liability insurance, which I thought was really high for a makeup artist. I was like, I think my photography is at 20 million, and that's because of certain venues I've worked with have requirements.
Yeah. Well, you do a lot of wedding stuff, don't you? So,
yeah. So, they make money.
I'm going to move on because time's ticking on a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Next question from Natslayer Cosplay.
Oh.
What tips can you give to new cosplayers? What tips can you give to new cosplayers from a safety and etiquette aspect?
I think everything we said previously,
I think everything we've covered in this, innit? Like,
I think we've covered a lot. I think communication is the key. If you're unsure
aware
about
of your surroundings,
don't do it.
Yeah,
be aware of your surroundings. Just ask. No question is a stupid question.
No, I think if you're new to an event or new to cosplay in general, you might not have friends there or whatever. Tell an outside friend or family member, but hey, I'm going to this event. Can you give me a couple of phone calls during the day or whatever?
Yeah.
Or also have
the
like
amount
a text
of
message thing.
The amount of cosplayers I've met over the years.
Call me.
Yeah.
The amount of cosplayers I've met over the years that I've shot with for the first time, and it's been like their first ever Comic-Con, and they're there on their own, no friends, no family, which is fine, but at least tell someone where you're going and what you're doing.
Yeah.
So the next question, HyperMonkey30. If it's been asked already, no worries. But views on people, cosplayers, just taking a photo without asking.
people taking pictures of cosplayers without asking.
Just people taking photos, in general of you as a cosplayer or whatever without asking. That kind of comes under sniping, but also they might not be a photographer. They might just be a person with a phone.
Personally bother me because when I go to an event, I know it's expected. Like I used to do it when I used to go to Comic Cons when I wasn't cosplaying. Like you're just taking pictures of the event. You want to take pictures because cosplayers going is a main part of it as well.
Exactly. I know we've talked about photographers doing it, and that comes under sniping. But if it's just a person walking around with a phone, feel like it's expected. A lot of people don't realise this, but when you buy a ticket, particularly for MCM and for Secret Con and probably for MegaCon, the terms of that ticket are you can and will be photographed throughout the day. And when you buy a ticket, you're automatically signing up to those terms. That doesn't mean it's okay for a photographer to just come over your shoulder and go, but as a person just walking around at the event with their phone, yes, it's polite to ask. It really is general polite and etiquette to just say, can I take a photo? But at the same time, that person might be feeling awkward. So it is, there is a certain amount of lenience, I think, that needs to go along with that.
For me,
when I'm vlogging an event, I'll be like, oh, there's a really cool cosplay over there that you can see, or like, not going into the face like this.
I think it's really important when considering the person you're taking a picture of. So, for example, if you're just standing there in a group of cosplayers and people take pictures of you, I have no problem with that. But if I'm sitting in the canteen bit in the middle, with half my cosplayer on the chair next to me, and I've got half a burger in my mouth, I don't really want you taking a picture of me.
No, exactly.
Like,
or if you sat chowing down on a burger in like a burger restaurant or at the side away, just have a little bit of consideration. I think.
Dex does cosplay. We were both Deadpools at MCM just gone, and it was like towards the end of the day, and we'd both given up on life. We took our shoes off, the belts were off, we're taking off the katanas, and someone still came along and went picture and didn't give us an opportunity to be like, wait, and just took middle of us, and we were just there like disheveled. Like, so I feel like there is etiquette to it.
There is,
it is just fun most of the time.
I suppose it comes down to within reason as well as like.
Yeah, like
you first.
What are they using the pictures for? What are they? You know when someone's just at an event, they've bought a ticket and it's fun and they just want memories and.
It's like you're saying, Chloe, if you were like doing a vlog and you go, oh, that's a cool cosplay over there. Like, that's a good, within reason that's not a negative way. You're showcasing the event, and it's probably not a bad shot. But I have heard reports of people being like upskirted or stuff like that. And that's not acceptable.
Yeah.
But this is where within reason and within common sense. Yeah. And how would you deal with that in day-to-day life going around places?
Yeah.
Is upskirting illegal?
Yeah. It is. Yeah.
Actually,
so therefore,
I think there was a girl it happened to at London. This is a story that I heard and Steph was telling me about, where she was meant to go to Birmingham, but because she got upskirted at London, she felt really uncomfortable cosplaying and decided that for her own mental health and for her own well-being, she decided that she wasn't going to attend Birmingham. Yeah, it was really sad because her cosplay was really cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
It was really, really good. Yeah, and this one scenario happened, and it just changed her mindset on it, which is a real big shame.
It is. It is.
The other thing with it is, so if you ask someone, you're going to get a better picture. Well, I've been with like Jordan, Lucy, or Chester, who have really good like high-level cosplays, and are normally themed with a group of them. And like, if you just take a snap, it's like, okay, but if you say, can I take a picture? They will pose, they'll get props out, they'll do whatever. Asking will get you such a better picture.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And 9 times out of 10, if you ask someone, oh, you look amazing, can I get a shot with you? 9 times out of 10,
Yes,
Let's
yeah,
do it
because I
to
put
Randy,
all
so
this
yeah.
effort into it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to be photographed. I am a
Also,
peacock.
Also, though, if you ask someone and they do say no, don't take it to heart. There might be 1,000,001 reasons why they're saying no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They might have just had some really bad news. They might be at the end of the day, they might be really pissed off, might have a cosplay malfunction. They might just be knackered or be sat eating. If they say no, just walk away and go on to the next person.
Just say
Simple.
thank you very much anyway, and you just go about your day.
Yeah, enjoy your
I think
day.
it's like a commonly known thing that when people are sat eating, it's like a no photo
Yeah.
You think it, wouldn't you?
zone, really. Like, I feel like
Not,
everyone just knows that.
it's not as common as you'd hope. Common sense is not as common as it used to be.
Not, yeah.
No, it's really not.
I've had pictures DM'd to me of me eating, like with like Troy or someone, just sitting eating, and I'm just like, thank you? Question mark.
Lucy had this. She was at Subway eating, and someone like asked her to take pictures, so she stopped eating. And was like, oh, where do you want me? So there's fine. So they then took a picture of her, like with a Subway next to her. Took the photos. Like, oh, what's your username? I'll send you the photos once I've edited them. And she's just thinking, what are these going to be when I'm sitting in a Subway with a sandwich next to me? She was very confused. I for one, really want to see what this picture looks like.
Yeah, me too now.
Yeah. So, Bigfoot photos 1912, Gareth. From both sides, what to expect? What to expect before, during, and after a con? I think this is a good one for general etiquette, really. And I think, from my perspective, I mean, it varies. It's all about communication. So, if someone messages me before, I will chat to them about, if I'm not shot with them before, generally chat about some ideas, get a bit of a conversation going, maybe chat about where you're going to shoot, how many shots you might give them. One of the key communication things for me as a photographer, and a lot of photographers forget this, is give a person a rough indication of how long it's going to be before they'll get the shots. I see people complaining all the time. Photographers complaining all the time. Oh, I've only just got back from the event and I've got people messaging me about photos already. Well, did you have the conversation with them to say it will be X, Y, Z days, weeks, months, years?
I'm the opposite. I forget. And then like a year later, like, oh yeah.
I mean, as a photographer, I shoot with so many people, a lot less than I used to, but still a lot of people, a lot of images. If I've got a bit of a backlog, I'll normally say to someone, I've got a bit of a backlog, so it might be a few weeks or a month or two before you get your shots. Is that okay? Plain and simple. You're managing their expectations. If you say that to them and they say okay, and then 2 days later they're saying, have you got my shots yet? Then no, I'm sorry. Fuck off. We've already had the conversation.
My previous message.
Yeah, exactly. But a lot of photographers don't have that conversation. And with more and more events on the calendar now, and some togs attending literally every single one, their backlog must be huge. So just manage people's expectations a bit. From my perspective, I don't know what you guys expect from a cosplayer side of things when you shoot with a photographer for the first time.
I don't expect...
I'm just happy if I ever see the picture.
Yeah, like I don't like if it's a con, like a free shoot, I'm not expecting to get that back. But
yeah,
but
that's fair.
If it's a paid shoot and we've got an agreed SLA for that to be done, that's completely different.
Yeah, of course it is.
But when it comes to con, like just have the conversation. If you're uncomfortable with it taking too long, shoot with someone else.
Yeah.
If it's with Darren and he outposted it within 2 hours, then I am very disappointed.
Cheeky bit.
If it's a shoot with me, Darren, and Chloe, I always have to try and shoot it first, post it first.
So
who's going to do it first?
You normally shoot first, and then while I'm shooting, you're sat on the fucking floor with your laptop editing.
Yeah, that's literally what I'm going to say.
to win the race.
It's the only way I can get things out before you, dear. And then
Well,
on the
all
flip
I'll
side,
say
you will...
is I'll just say it's quality over quantity.
Oh,
Magna's going to be fun.
Oh, it is. You were there. You were both in the room. I think Chloe was also might have been in the room with
Chloe
this
was
one.
there, wasn't it?
Yeah, the cosplayer who messaged me the night I'd shot, like a couple of hours after, saying, "Oh, the photo's edited yet."
Yeah.
And I'd had the discussion that it'd be a few weeks with them, like when we shot. And then what really didn't heckle was someone else who had shot with them, edited the photos because they'd shot with my lighting setup, put the bloody pictures up that evening. I was like, fuck's sake, dude. Like, I'm not calling out like that photography is not their fault. But oh my God, I was like, I told them it'd be a couple of weeks.
And someone else has already sent it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It comes down to individual photographers though. In the days, like everyone's loads of different. It's like.
And that's not true. The pictures would be the same as yours either.
Exactly.
Even with your lighting setup.
Exactly.
The thing is,
I will say, like, prior to this year, I never used to have a backlog at all. Practically every event I'd be going into, I'd be up to date on editing. But this year, there's just more and more events on the calendar now.
That's right.
It's almost like the season used to run from like the end of March to the beginning of November, and there used to be like one every few months. Now the season runs from January to December, and I would say there's almost at least one con every month now, if not more in some months. Right. So, you know, I've for the first year ever, I've got a backlog. You know, so previous years, cosplayers have been used to getting pictures back from me probably in a week or two max, and I'd be finished on my edits. Now I think, I don't know, where am I on? Whereabouts am I on my?
Put it this way, I edited the other day a handful of shots from MegaCon London in January.
Oh God. So that's the thing though, like you can get sick of like doing one event, so you're like, right, I'll start editing from this event.
Yeah.
But then I've also seen people complaining like, why are you editing from this event when I still got my pictures back from that event? And it's like,
well, that's why.
This is my choice. Yeah. Like,
I always say to cosplayers, it's like, if you want a particular shot from a con, let me know, because if I don't know, I can't edit it ones that you want. Otherwise, I'm just going to jump between folders and I'm just going to work through things I see.
Do what you fancy doing. What's inspiring that day.
It's the thing. I think a lot of people don't
recently finished my
magpies.
Yeah, I mean, I've recently finished my Secret Con Kiel. I've done quite a few of my MCM October. Most of them, I've still got some to go through. So you know, and then a couple of shoots, like non-con shoots in between that I'm still working on. So yeah, I'm like, I've got a bit more caught up, but there was a period where I think like probably 2-3 months where I barely had a weekend at home because I was either out at an event or I was out on a weekend shoot. It's just got busier and busier, and I can't see next year being any different.
It's also prioritizing different shoots as well. It's like I've done more paid shoots this year than I did last year, and I always prioritize my paid shoots because
of course,
you have to.
And that's why I have a big cosplay backlog. It's because I think I had 2 orders this year that both ordered over 65 images from a shoot. So they are people that have put money down for them shoots, and I've had to sit and go through 65 images. For them.
Lot, man.
Well, they paid for them, so I was like, well, okay, we'll do them.
Yeah. So
I've
also. I'm sorry. Go on, Dad.
Well, I was going to say I'm starting to charge for paid edits. So I'm going to be putting a post out this week. So it's basically I'm going to start charging £10 a photo or 5 to 45 for rush job, like for priority edits. Any photo I take at an event, you'll still get for free. But if you have made a cosplay to tie in with a popular thing that's out at the moment, and you want your photos really quickly for said event, or like for some kind of promo or whatever, and you need the photos like quickly, then you can pay me like a premium, and you'll go up the list. Everyone who shoots with you will still get all their photos for free, but unfortunately, with being a paid photographer and doing paid shoots outside of this, I can't have every single person's photo done within 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So if you need them, I mean, because you want to go to a premiere or something.
Yeah, I've done that before, and it works well. And I think from next year, I'm going to be going down a similar route. So from next year, my mainstream events, everyone I shoot with will get 3 images. If you want any more edits than that, you'll have to pay for additional edits. If you want them quicker, you'll have to pay to get them quicker. If you want them to tie in, like you say, and if you want any, if it's outside of something I'm specifically invested in for my own portfolio, my own social media, if you want specific effects and things like that, the plugins and the software and the tools to do that costs money. To sit there and do it by hand takes hours. So we've either got to put hours into it, or we've got to invest in software and plugins to do that. And I'm sorry, going forwards, if people want that sort of thing, they're going to have to pay some sort of contribution towards it. Everyone I shoot with will still get 3 images back. It's as simple as that. I'm never going to go down the route of charging for shoots at cons. That's a whole other debate that I'm not prepared to get into on this podcast. We will discuss it in a future upcoming podcast. We're not the US, we're the UK, and I will keep it to that. But yeah, I think, from an expectation perspective, that's where I sit with it. I know we've sort of digressed a little bit from the safety, but I think it still comes under the etiquette category. But yeah, I think for me, the key is still communication.
For sure.
So just going round everybody, last few tips to stay safe at cons. Chloe?
Just be very aware of your surroundings. Just know where everything is. Be alert. Be on a bit of alert of the people around you. And
Declan?
is it really?
Have an exit route. Like, be aware of how to get out of where you are. Like, if you're shooting in the car park, know how to get out of there. If you're in the woods, not the woods, I always say the woods. If you're in the trees at London, like, know the way to get, somewhere, just know how to get out of the situation you're in. And linked in with that, make sure your stuff is close enough that you can grab your bag and go. That's fair.
Keep your phone charged as well.
Oh yeah, that's a great one actually. Yeah. Tom?
Communication. I know we've said it a few times. I think it's key for a lot of things, especially when shooting at cons. Communicate what you're comfortable with. Communicate what it is that you're wanting from the shoot. So, like, from a posing perspective, even this is something I always say in my paid shoots is like, if you walk away from the shoot and you go, "Ah, shit, I wish I asked this," or "I wish I did this pose," always ask. Talk to the whole idea is a collaborative process. To talk with who you're working with. Like we said, no question's a silly question. And if you feel comfortable to do something, and all parties are comfortable, then go ahead and you do it. But if one person's not comfortable, then you take a step back and you go, "That's not a problem," and you just carry on. So yeah, communication.
And for me, I think respect. Have respect for yourself, have respect for the people around you, have respect for the people that you're working with. Communication, again, as we've discussed a lot, And then lastly for me, just trust your gut.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, your gut's not going to let you down. So yeah, that brings us to the end of this episode. So I've been iPhoto UK for Cosplay Tugs and All Things Nerdy. And my podcast partner is Switch_GN on all platforms. You can find us on various social media platforms such as Instagram, cosplay.togs.all.things.nerdy. Our YouTube is at Cosplay Togs and All Things Nerdy. We're also on Spotify and TikTok, but if you click on our main bio on our Instagram, you'll find our link tree with all of our relevant links. So we've been joined by the amazing Declan Scammell. You'll find him on Instagram under that name. Tess, Ready Cosplayer 1, and Chloe, it's Chloe Hill. Thank you to our wonderful guests this evening, and thank you to our wonderful audience. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. It's been an important one for us to get out, and no doubt you will hear more from us on this subject. And one last time, we will also post a link to the reel from Tearastar and the Theemberwolf, who did a reel about general etiquette, do's and don'ts, safety, and a few bits and pieces. We'll post a link to that as well because it's a fantastic reel. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you all soon.